now sinking her teeth into this race course.
Yes, that's right. Madame Pele, as they say. But we do understand that for the women also, we've got Andy that's obviously won his bike bonus. So the Big Ring Ironman bike bonus that we have on the women's side went to none other than from the United States, MBK, Meredith Kessler. Good stuff to Meredith. I mean, that's an extra $1,500. Very motivating, very encouraging, good. So also, you know what? Why not? I mean, that may make you feel a little better. Of course, it's good to have that cash in your pocket. It also makes you feel good because you know you're on track, beating others already to one little victory.
Yeah, provided you finish the race. That's what you have to do to get to be eligible for that $1,500 by Big Ring Bike Insurance today. Finishing the race after going through first at the just over 40-mile mark onto the bike course today. Andrew Starkowitz, rare to get out of the saddle. He usually climbs as he's got his aero position, his elbows in the aero position when he climbs there today. But now he's out of the saddle. You know what that means. He's struggling with that wind.
Well, it could be, or it could be another opportunity to stretch your back, stretch your muscles, stretch your legs. I see cyclists in the background. What is that? Is that motorcycle? So it could be a choice. So sometimes we do hurt and we have to pop up. Other times it's like, you know what, I'm going to be aero for a long, long time. He has not made the turn yet to the right, thus making it a headwind. So he's experiencing crosswinds, and so every now and then you got to say, I'm going to shake out of this aero position, just save myself. Because once you make that right turn, you tuck into that headwind section straight into Javi, man, you don't want to get up. You do not want to move. You want to be as aero and as tight as you can. You want to just be a hidden to the wind. So I think, I don't know, I like seeing him stand up every now and then.
All right, so Starkowitz making his way towards Harvey as our last bikers. They're making their way out onto the Blue Bicycles, a bike course today, 112 miles for our slow pokes there on the swim today, but they'll be making their way out momentarily. They got as much as they like in the transition. As long as they get out of the water at 2 hours and 20 minutes, they're just fine. But I would say get a move on, get out on that bike course before the wind gets up.
For sure, yeah. The earlier you get out there, the less whoa you're going to have. But you know what? Here it is. It's just interesting. It doesn't usually blow like this. We're getting breeze here near transition, so interesting, just volatile weather changes. But Starkowitz is now, it looks like, I mean, to me, those are two guys catching right back up. So if I can just have the moto slow down, not like he hears me, but this is great. So what have we got here? Probably Joe Gamble's coming back in. Let's see as soon as we can who's coming in.
Yeah, so Joe Gamble's just making his way up to the front of the race as well. Andrew Starkowitz is still leading our men's race at this point in time. So it's very interesting as we have a wind switch as well. So the wind is switching around to the northwest and and back in town here. The northwest up at the other end of the course, but back in town we can feel the wind just coming out of the south a little bit over here from the ocean as well. So different wind conditions. We've got the trade winds. They are blowing. They were predicted to blow over the weekend, and then sounds like on Monday they're going to die down again. So they really have caught it at a good time if you look at it that way.
For sure, and so it's right there. We've got, showing the gap really well of how close these athletes are. Two people tucked in together, chasing that second and third, chasing very closely. It's good stuff, man. These guys are getting into the hardest part of the course for the first half. They're climbing up to Javi. They're trying to conserve energy. They're trying to be smart, but they're also trying to maximize this gap that they have on the chasers. Those chasers, lean, mean machine back there. There's a bunch of them. So I guess what it is it's early to win the race, but it's not too early to lose the race. So you've got to maintain a little bit of contact. You've got to be in the mix. Here's a nice shot. This is it right here, folks. Starting it out. Number 160, getting onto the bike course there and getting going. Good stuff. He's wearing long white sleeves to protect himself from that harsh Kona sun. Also long black socks to do something else. Maybe just keep the compression going, the blood flow in those calves. So as we split the screen there, we've obviously got an athlete leading, and I'm going to tuck right back in here to the men's race. On that upper screen, a little picture breakup as we're getting that transmitted from the helicopter. Mr. Matt Lieta will soon be with us. He's coming back from the water's edge to join us here in booth. But right now, a close-up of Andrew Starkowitz. And again, so that he's up to speed, you can see, Matt, we've got, Andrew Starkowitz that is out of the saddle, making a few, I think, stretching. He's about to take this bend. He's about to make this bend around, and the two athletes that are coming up on him close, man, they look, he's eyeballing. Look at that. He said, looking over, I'm assuming that's Potts. He looks over, and he says, you coming? I'm going.
Wow, and right now you see Starkowitz sitting up, right? Is that a sign?
Starkowitz sitting up, and it may not be a sign of much, but it could be. We just don't know. He's been hammering. We talked about it. Did he give too much too early? Did he hammer, and now he's paying the piper? I don't know, but I don't think what he loves to see is someone take the lead from him.
No, especially when he's already gotten the gap and he feels like he's gotten up the road and is able to, he thought he was on his way to his victory.
That's Mike Twalsek. Look at that. That's Mike Twalsek riding one of those times. This guy's great. Look at him go. Mike Twalsek, we saw him in the top 10 maybe 5 years ago. He's been gone from action. German, training out of Tucson. What an exciting change.
Oh, no, that's awesome.
He's the one that's taking the lead.
We didn't expect to see him, but it's not necessarily a surprise for us because we know that the last times he's raced this race, the Cat, as he's affectionately known, was up off the front with my brother back in the day, but he was a force in this bike ride, and he's got his time up at the front right now. He's gone by Andrew Starkowitz. That's going to give him a little bit of energy and confidence going in, and right now he's making sure he's getting that hydration. He's getting after it. But Michael, I just got word from the course, and I don't know if you guys touched on this already, but yeah, I've got spotters out there that are saying this is the windiest it's been right now in the last 15 years. But back in the last time.
Of course.
Yeah, exactly. It's always the hardest when you're out there. But
it's
we haven't had, to be fair, we haven't had a very, very windy year, and these people have been out there spotting for all those years past. And it might not be the worst in 15 years, but it's a hard wind day. So it's not a day for an athlete like Starkowitz to do his 405 or whatever he was planning. And right now, an athlete that has experienced these really tough windy days, Mike Twalsek, he knows what it's like to be in the lead of this race on the bike. He also knows what it's like to go hard being in the lead of this race, right? So right now, Mike has a little bit more experience than he did in years past. So he's at the front, but we don't know what he's capable of. But he might be holding back right now. But he at least knows that if he's at the front of this race and gets a large gap, he's going to pay for it in the end. So we're going to see some great racing from Mike Twalsek here. But nonetheless, both of us very excited to see.
Well, it's exciting to
Mike
see a lead change, and this guy, he's my brother, so I don't know who your brother is, but Mike Twalsek, he's my brother. He's at the front of the race, and what I like is, just the fact that he is changing the dynamic that everyone talked about, and we knew this. I had a feeling this would happen because last year everybody said, Starkowitz going to light this up. He sure did, but so did Luke McKenzie. Now we've got a comparable athlete to that, someone who can take the bull by the horns. He's pulling away right now. He's on an extremely aero bike with a great position. He looks good. He looks comfortable. I mean, what else do you want? This guy has the history. He won Ironman Wisconsin in 2007. He won Ironman Lake Placid, if memory serves me. The guy has it in spades. He knows how to race. He knows how to rock and roll. It's good. If we look to what you guys may see at home, we're going to touch in on the women's. We'll get you a footage soon, but just a little heads up. Daniela Ryf has taken the lead. So we've seen her come through. She's only got 5 seconds on Kessler. That puts her 7 seconds ahead of Mary Beth Ellis. Now further 10 seconds back from the lead is Rachel Joyce and Caroline Steffen moving into the picture. So it is getting shaken up as we thought it would. Again, to recap, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, Daniela Ryf, Kessler, Mary Beth Ellis, Rachel Joyce, and Steffen.
That's exciting. It. And, I hate it when Greg leaves the bench, but, I called him out for maybe calling Daniela Ryf out the front of this race maybe a little too early, and she's gotten there. So good call, Greg. But she is at the front. Caroline Steffen, she's 22 seconds back from Rachel Joyce, who's at the back end of that group. So, she'll probably, we expect her to connect up there. But right now we have an athlete that is chasing Mike Twalsek, and we'll look at it's a Scott bike with a Red Bull helmet. That is Sebastian Kienle.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Sebastian Kienle has found his way up there. He's rocking and rolling a little bit. We know that he is he's a cyclist at heart, so he moves all around. He wants as much energy out of that bike as he can. But right now, let's not forget, from the athlete's right shoulder, from what I have heard, they're getting massive wind, and he's moving around a little bit because of that, but he's putting the hammer down.
Well, they told us it was 20 miles an hour wind, so we heard that earlier. 15 years, no, it's not the windiest in 15 years because, 2004, only 3 guys broke 5 hours. Okay, when Norman Stadler won. So 10 years ago, but I will absolutely concur, 10 years ago was the last time we had epic wind. We've had wind, okay, it's Kona. But right now, this is another, I love it, a German freight train. So this is bringing me back to the 90s.
Oh,
this is bringing me back to Hellriegel, Sack, everything. It's awesome. So it's very, very awesome. We've got, he's got that side-to-side motion. He humps the bike sometimes. You want to say it, but he is really good when he does that. It doesn't matter. I don't see this guy losing energy. We saw him do that at Worlds last year and won it, 70.3 that is.
Absolutely, and it's a different type of rocking that he had at Worlds. At Worlds, he's just all over his bike.
Sure.
Here, it's a little bit more controlled because he's a smart guy. He knows he has to ride hard, but he has to make sure he's going to run a marathon. He wants to run a low 250 marathon off this bike, so he's going to make sure to not overly work himself. Right now, his goal is to go as fast as possible at the most conservative watts he can while distancing himself from the group. But he looks smooth, standing out of the saddle. That's a Michael Lovato move right there, everybody. Standing out of the saddle in the aero bars. Trademark.
So what's cool is said conserving. I don't see these guys conserving right now because I there's been all these rumors. What's going on with the run? Twelsek's run has always been a little softer, but I like the way these guys are tackling it because they can both run. They can absolutely both run. And Kienle, he can run extremely well.
Absolutely.
So, you know
Unreal.
what? So, who cares if he didn't do so well in Mont Tremblant 5 weeks ago?
He doesn't.
What he wants to do is come up from third place, which means second or first. Okay, he's in there. He's got a great ally in Twelsek. And man, look at these two go. This is exciting. This is really, really good stuff.
And do you think, Michael, there's a little bit of German pride? They know what we know. It's been a while since we had, the German freight train off the front. They're getting a little bit of energy from that, you think?
Well, for sure. These guys everyone's sort of a historian when you're good at this sport and you get in, you kind of follow the past, and it's absolutely uplifting, to say that you root for your country members in the past and current and present. So, but also we know there's big claims for top German, so that's on the line too.
It's a big deal.
One of the things, touching again, we're lucky enough to have GoPro present this race to us. GoPro is such a cool product, and one of our top American athletes who's been a bit off the radar this year, but was one of the most talented and hardest working athletes around, and she's injured this year, didn't make it on course. We had a chance to catch up with Heather Jackson, and it's really fun for us to bring that footage to you now. A little bit more from Heather Jackson.
"112 miles is such a long distance. Mentally, I think it's the most challenging part of the race. 70 miles, you start to realize I'm barely halfway done. From Kauai High up to Javi, to where a lot of the girls make their moves. It's very rare that the girls go up and come down in the same order. You need to make it hurt as much on the downhills as the uphill. You go through so many ups and downs. If you're hurting, you can push through that moment. It's just trying to play that line between going as hard as you can, knowing you have to run 26 miles after.
How cool is GoPro? I mean, they bring you guys this action right there. So any one of us become a top-class photographer, which is fun, or videographer, as the case may be. But GoPro really enables people to see what's going on, get in the action, and see it play out. I wish I had a GoPro on Kienle's camp bike right now, because look at him go. He's chasing Mike Twelsek. Again, bringing you guys back up to speed. If you just joined us here at this race, right now we have two Germans off the front. Super cool. It brings back the old days. It brings back, I'm sorry, let's not get nostalgic. Right now, this is the here and now.
This is what's going on.
This is last year's third-place finisher with another German, Mike Twelsek, leading. These guys, man, they're going for it, and also really good cyclists behind them getting dropped.
Well, no, I think that's an important point to touch on, Michael, is, we've been looking at Andrew Starkowitz this whole first half of the bike ride, talking about him and his bike course record. I know you didn't like to talk about that, but he's been swept up and he's gone now. We don't know what the gap is, but he's certainly not in contact with these two athletes. He's not able to climb in these wins at this rate. And right now, Sebastian Kienle is moving around Mike Twalsek for the lead of the race, and as we said, he needs to do that within 20 seconds. So Sebastian Kienle putting in a pretty hard effort to get past his countryman Mike Twalsek.
Kind of a fun shot. I mean, this is our split screen. Obviously, Kienle going for the front and down in the bottom corner. We got our spectators here, and these guys are live. These are the live viewing party here in town. So this is just adjacent to me. These guys can hear me talking. They're looking at me. Perhaps they're looking at themselves. Would love to get a little wave, a little shaka bra. Come on, help us out here, guys. Say aloha. That's our viewing party at home, here in town. I know you guys are at home watching. There's Kienle in the front. to me, this is super impressive. He's bided his time a little bit. He's used the ally. He's taken his share of the lead now.
Yeah, and I mean, he had a gap to make up out of the swim, and he's done so pretty quickly. You know, he's caught the race every year right around this point, right? But it appeared when I was in transition that the gap maybe was a little bit bigger than in years past, but not so, or not too big of a gap for him to make up. And let's not forget, he made this gap up on 27 athletes using the other motivation of the other athletes around them, and he was up there. He had two. He had Marino Van Hoenacker. It sounds like he had Luke McKenzie for a fair bit of time. Obviously, now he has Mike Twalsek. But, Michael, how much harder is it to put that kind of effort in solo versus when you're with a group, or when you know there's a group ahead of you?
Well, I wouldn't know. I can only speculate. No, it's true. You know, what happens is physically there's a tiny bit of a draft effect. There's a tiny bit of a, draft sort of drawing you along. But what really happens is you get a mental break. So you get an emotional break. It hurts some athletes. It helps some athletes. I've said this before, but sometimes an athlete like Starkowitz, I'm willing to bet that when he's third wheel, it takes wind from his sails. It doesn't help him at all because
for sure.
he likes to be up front. He likes to be. So to your question, Kienle, he probably is fine with sharing the lead going here and there because he doesn't need to prove himself on the bike. He needs to prove himself at the finish line. But Starkowitz, I think that might hurt him, his morale.
I think you're right. I think Starkowitz, he's, let's say, he has no lack of confidence. He's a very good, confident guy, right? So in his mind, if somebody's riding in front of him, there's something wrong with him.
Yeah.
He's not performing at his top. He's not a guy to think, well, this athlete's just better than me. He's a guy to think, well, I must have something going wrong right now, and that is going to pull him further down the results.
Sure. It takes wind from your sails, and so if you just take a peek at the picture here, which you probably are, the road is starting to bend, and you're going into that last 6.5, 7 miles, as I mentioned earlier, up to Javi. There's no longer dips. There's no longer downturns in the road. It's all straight up and into the wind. So that aforementioned crosswind that was hitting you at 20 miles an hour, well, suddenly it's in your face. So again, huge thanks to Specialized for giving us this bike coverage, bringing us the bike coverage today, because it's obviously a very exciting time. It's a very cool thing. So big thanks to Specialized for getting us this coverage. So again, looking at this, Matt, what do you see here?
Yeah, right now we have those same two athletes. You've got a moto coming up from behind, but those same two athletes up the road. And we'll apologize, as often as we can, we're going to get split screen of the men's and women's race. But right now we're having just a little bit of technical difficulties with the camera around the women, so we'll get that back as soon as we can. Earlier we lost the men's, but it's just a refueling that we're doing at the moment. So we're gonna get up to the women's race as soon as we can. But right now we do know Daniela Ryf is in the lead of that race.
Yeah, and we talk about this. It's just like in the triathlon. You got to stop him. You got to put your Ironman Perform in. You guys have to put gas in the moto. So those guys do that. And you guys at home, we appreciate your patience because sometimes you don't get to see the pictures. Just trust us. We don't see them either. Sometimes, they refuel, they restock, and they get going. We'll get it back. The cool thing that's just happened now, we're talking about the crosswinds. No one knows these crosswinds or this terrain better than our next guest. We're so excited. We've been waiting all morning to bring on this guy. Compliments to Specialized. I'm going to announce him as the 5th place 1996 finisher at this race, because that was a proud moment for Mr. Dave Scott, also 6-time winner. Thanks for coming, Dave.
Thank you, Michael, Matt.
Yeah, good to have you on.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, what do you think about the race so far, what you've seen today?
Well, you guys have been watching it live. I missed about the last half hour, so I'm getting bits and pieces and people that are spotting it out there as well. On the women's side, seeing the front three take off, and now that gap has been closed. And Daniela, who's really proven herself this year as kind of the superstar, winning so many races and seemingly resilient. I mean, it's phenomenal, and she obviously is holding up early on. Rachel is there, which is a good thing for me. I work with her, so I'm very happy about that. Liz Blashford, as my understanding, is also up in the front. Yeah. So, they've got a good dynamic trio. I know Jody received a penalty, and my report is that she's now making up time. But when you get that penalty, how disheartening. She had a solid swim, which was to be expected, and then all of a sudden it's 3 minutes back and making up time. I think in the women's field, it's a little bit different dynamics than the men, where there's less yo-yoing, where the women are accelerating and slowing down. You see this more often with the men. So Long ways to go, and I haven't heard a report about Mirinda. She's always the force, so...
that brings up the question, because we've talked a lot about it and the dynamic that comes from a Rachel Joyce, a Daniela Ryf. Also, we lost Joyce, but we've still got Meredith Kessler. We've still got Liz Blatchford. So that power pack, how much time can they put on Mirinda, and how much hurts Mirinda? Where does it help someone like Rachel Joyce to get away with those leaders?
Well, obviously for Rachel, having that group, and she's acutely aware of Meredith's ability, and kind of working off each other. When you feel kind of soft, someone accelerates, you're going to have to match that, and legally that's what they're allowed to do, but you get kind of that pulling effect. And in a small unit like that, in a very strong group, it's difficult with Mirinda, but let's not discount her by any means. Her weapon, and not just her physical skills on the run, but psychologically with the women. If they're thinking about where's Mirinda, and they're really not staying on their plan, bad idea. They're all great runners. Mirinda is a superstar when she puts her shoes on, but they just have to be confident on their cycling plan and just adhere to it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the whole race, they're thinking about how much time do I currently have on Mirinda and how much time am I able to get at the end. And just back to, we don't want to dwell on the penalty too much, but as a coach of another female in the lead of the race, what would you say to an athlete if they were to get a penalty midway through? How do you adjust to that? Do you go hard and try to get back to where you were, or do you kind of calm down and try to change your race plan?
I think you absolutely have to stay calm. The big mistake with the men is that they're playing this cat and mouse game, and obviously with the winds this year, that completely changes the game plan. But even with the game plan and the wind blowing, everyone knows what that finite capacity is on the bike, whether it's X watts and I need to stay in this range. Jody shouldn't scramble. She's proven herself as a great runner as well. And, to try to make up 3 minutes, well, that might take another 50 miles where she finally closes that gap. And inherently, there is a big drop-off, men's and women's. Once they come back to the Queen K and they've got essentially 30 miles to go, there's a dramatic fall-off. And we saw Frederick last year where he just maintained a steady pace in his power and was the champion.
Absolutely.
And certainly all of this, action, we have so much biking to go, and huge thanks to Specialized for bringing us this live coverage, bringing us Dave Scott.
Absolutely.
A great opportunity to look as our men approach Javi. Dave, you know this well, better than anyone. This is Mike Tweslik from Germany. He's taking the lead with Sebastian Kienle. They're ahead of Starkowitz and some of the other powerhouses, but a change to get Kienle there. If he doesn't get a flat like he did a couple years ago, this guy is on the tear. Talk to us about what you see here. This is smooth to me. It's a headwind section coming into the turnaround. What have we got?
We can see the grass moving right there. I mean, you've seen many times coming up. The winds are hard when the grass is kind of bending towards you. What are they about to experience up here?
Well, a number of people said, how are the conditions? And I said, this seemingly is a typical Kona day. And I was out yesterday, actually, just trying out my Specialized machine, and it handles beautifully, but the engine's not quite as strong. And I got to Waikoloa, and oh boy, bloody hell, that was rugged. That headwind just hit me. So that's 7 miles where you see the Javi sign, and now they're making the bend around here. I'm very familiar with it, looking at the monitor. It can be disheartening. A lot of people have a tendency to overgear, and they bring up their wattage 20, 30, 40 watts on the climb, and that's a big mistake. Everyone's going slower. You just have to be nice and smooth. But he looks brilliant right now, and I think we've seen Kienle in the past where he is a machine. Starkowitz has ridden this course very, very fast. But again, they need to do this. The great runners, at least the proven runners, are the guys in that next wave, and so they've got to put a dent not only physically but psychologically in the runners. And this wind, I like to see it. Frankly, it's a good equalizer, and it will present some problems on the back half of the run.
And it's an equalizer. Do you think it plays more into the hands of the strong cyclist or the stronger runner?
Well, I think we can look at the strong cyclists. Historically, there's been a few great cyclists that have been able to win because of their cycling ability, and these guys that are in front are saying, gee, I need this buffer. They can still run. We've seen Kienle run extremely well. So I think when you're having to extend that strength and or power on a section like this, it really favors the cyclist. They like conditions like this. They don't want a soft day on the bike where they've got 17 guys sitting in. There's no drafting effect, and people can say, well, in a long peloton with these huge high crosswinds, that's just not going to happen. So they're by themselves.
Here we go. We're dipping right downhill. So you're exactly right, Dave. We just came over the crest. It's a downhill half mile or so, maybe a tiny bit over a half mile. You dip down off to the left. They're going to come through that special needs station here in a minute. But as they roll down the hill, I mean, not letting up on the gas at all. And I think that's a wise move because, you know, time, every second counts. And so he's coming down. He'll have to coast as he goes through that turnaround. Timing mat, you got to drop the timing chip in there, register. But as you do that section, you know, you're going to have your first opportunity, your first and only opportunity of this part of the bike course to see your foes. So here he is, this guy coming right through, making the turn.
And they're going to be they're going to want to see who those athletes are that are chasing them, but they're also going to play the game. You won't see them look over. You won't see their head turn to see who's behind them. They're going to make sure that it appears that they don't care who's behind them. They're going on their own, but they're certainly looking. They might even take a little peek at their watch. We hit the split button here. They're surely going to hit the split button as they turn around.
So Dave, talk about a strategy here. This is Kienle. He's coming up. He's got the hill. First glance of a couple riders. Talk about the strategy here. You know he's going to go through special needs, crest, and begin to go downhill. What's the strategy now? I mean, we're kind of in that 50 miles to go. What happens?
Well, I think the big boys, and Kienle's one of the big boys on the bike. He's got a big chain ring. He's probably got a 54 or 55 and 11 on the back, and it's a monstrous gear. And you know, we've seen him in numerous races where he can develop the torque and the strength to really power this. This first section on the downhill, which we're watching right now, is a slight downhill, and then it's very, very quick. And if the winds are going to be favorable at the back, they'll be going over 50 miles an hour for about 4 or 5 miles. If the other guys are going 48, you make up a lot of time, and he can put on another 40 seconds just on this descent. So it's really advantageous for. He's got the lead psychologically. That's where he wants to be. That's what people have predicted. You're going to take the lead, and right now, who cares about the split times? He's just saying, I just want to extend this.
Yeah, and as you said, you know, a lot of times the big cyclists will make their moves coming down heavy, and you know, sometimes people will think, well, if I've got the same gear and I can put out the same power, I'm going to go just as fast as that cyclist in front, and the same power is questionable. But when you see a really, really good cyclist, you know, they can hold 120, 130 RPMs at that power. Someone who's maybe not necessarily as good a cyclist is going to have trouble going up over that 100, 105. And explain how that's kind of a little bit of difference and how an athlete like Sebastian can really, you know, distance himself from the others because of that.
Well, it's not only big gear and quick RPMs, but it's also bike handling.
Yeah.
When you get above 40 miles an hour and you get a little bit of that crosswind buffeting you, you know, the reaction is to tense up, to slow down, to soft pedal, and really the experienced cyclists are going to say, you know, here's a little divot, but I'm not going to defer from the output that I'm doing right now. And you can see the landscape in the back here is extraordinary, and it's very, very fast. And you know, having raced here many times, we had light conditions. I didn't use as big a gear as the guys are using right now, and so you know they're flying. We would spin out and try to coast a bit, and that was it.
Well, so, you know, and you brought it up. Right here is a section where it gets almost a little scary. So, you know, you've got to stay in the aero bars, and sometimes these athletes get scared, Matt. So you're coming down, but you have to do that. You have to not tense up when the wind hits you. In particular, we see with the women. The women are much smaller, but the same aero frames, the same, you know, Specialized makes that really broad cross-section. It's aero, but it catches the side wind, so you have to be ready for it. It makes the bike go faster if you let it. So the athletes have to be really good, and Dave said it. You tense up, that's bad. Counterintuitive thing to do, it's the right thing to do. Relax, loosen up, let the grip, the bike, the wind goes through. Sebastian's in that section right now. Yeah,
and as you see, you know, as we watch him, you know, not so much right now, you know, as you said, he's buffeted by the side at the moment, but you'll see him just then, even compared to the white line, you'll see him go closer to the white line, maybe a meter out, closer a meter out, and that's him letting the bike move. And perfect point, you know, the not so strong or not so confident cyclist is going to be getting, you know, not letting the bike go, and they actually get a little bit more movement because of it. Right now, he's going so fast he can't push that 55-11 anymore. He's got to, and that's not easy to do either. That looks like it's a good time, but that's not too easy.
No, that's you know, all the big boys can tuck real low, and aerodynamically they're ferociously fast. So if you spin out, get down as tight as you can. You're coming off the back of the seat, which doesn't control the stability with the bike. You've got more front load on that front wheel with that crosswind. So, you know, he knows how to handle the bike quite nicely.
Again, and we're not seeing it right now, but just looking at the women's race, so those gals, those top four are within 10 seconds of one another. We've got Ryf, we've got Kessler, and my screen just switched on me. We've also got Mary Beth Ellis as well as Rachel Joyce, only 20 seconds back of Rachel Joyce. Caroline Steffen. That top 5 is absolutely top-notch. See him just pop up. That's it right there, folks. A little bit, even for this top class, best in the world at times, he caught a speed wobble. He said, oh gosh, I got to come up off these bars. I got to be careful. The last thing you want to do at 45, 50 miles an hour is hit the dirt. So he came up, he controlled it. This is a true seasoned vet. You know, this was about where he flatted last year too. So coming into this next few miles, 2 years ago, I'm sorry. And when he flatted, that's a bad thing to have happen at these rates of speed. So good save by Sebastian. The German knows how to ride his bike.
Yeah, and Michael, I've got some updates on the men's splits through Havi. Sebastian Kienle, as we know, is in the lead behind him. It's now 6 seconds to Mike Twalsek. Fredrik Vreen-Lieren in third place, 45 seconds back. Marino van Hoenacker, strong cyclist, 47 seconds back. Then we got Romain Guillaume, sometimes underrated, but that guy is a super, super strong cyclist, and he's going to do good in a windy race like that. But still in that front group, all within a minute 10 of Sebastian Kienle, is Ben Hoffman. Jan Frodeno is back in there. Andrew Starkowitz now in the back of that group. Now we have 20 seconds gap already to Andy Potts, Igor Amarelli, Tim Van Berkel. Tim O'Donnell is a further 10 seconds back. Paul Matthews behind him, Tim Reed, Daniel Harksworth, and then Andreas Raylert is 220 behind Sebastian Kienle. But through that 5th place through 13th, it's all pretty close still.
We stopped talking about Raylert. He's so good, but our short memory, we forgot how good he is. So we don't talk about him right now, but maybe later. So this is a neat thing, Dave. You know, you hear this all the time. I hope it's really windy, or I hope it's really hot. Everyone hopes and hopes. But Kienle, we talked to him, and he really gave us an insight into what he loves, and I think he's getting it there on course. Let's hear what Sebastian said about conditions on race day.
Everything that makes the race harder and faster on the bike is playing in my favor. It's very easy for you mentally to follow somebody, but it's not that easy from your legs to follow somebody. You know, you have somebody that is pulling you mentally, but you don't have any benefit riding behind him most of the times, and that's really gonna hurt people because they try to hang on as long as they can, and often that's too long.
It's fantastic.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, here he is, Sebastian Kienle. There he is on the stats. He's a 2-time 70.3 world champion. This year's Ironman European champion. Finished 3rd here last year. Wearing bib number 3, representing Germany, Sebastian Kienle. Great words from that guy. And we do know that this specialized coverage goes on for another couple hours. One thing I just wanted to bring up with Dave is talk about what goes on now. So we talk about how hard it was getting to Hawi. Talk about how hard it is getting away from Hawi back to the Queen K.
Well, again, the last 7 or 8 years, we've seen the race really dismantle once they're back on the Queen K. So you have to remember, we're watching this incredible footage going downhill at extraordinary speeds, but then they have a rolling section up and down for about 8 miles to Kauai High, with really the most difficult climb about 1.25 miles back up to the Queen K. It's typically extraordinarily hot. There's people lined up along the course, and I think his second guess, my legs feel kind of empty. I was able to go 50 miles an hour, and now I'm going 12. I've always found this, and in coaching the athletes, I said, do what you can do on this section, particularly, let the bike do its business on the downhill, but when you get on that Queen K, ideally, you want to lock into the watts that you want to hold, because again, the men and the women, we're going to see that large group that we see is pretty tight. Matt mentioned 2 minutes and 20 seconds, with still a pretty large contingent, a lot of great runners. That's going to spread out more on the way home.
And right here, Dave, here she is, Rachel Joyce. She's taking the lead. Race number 2 out of Great Britain. Rachel Joyce training with Boulder under the tutelage of Dave Scott. 6-time Ironman champ. This guy has trained her well, and a lot of buzz about this girl. I mean, she's so well-rounded. She doesn't identify as a swim bike runner. She identifies as an Ironman athlete.
Yeah, she's pretty solid. Rachel's, she looks good right here, darn it.
Beat us, huh? She
just hang on. Let me just.
Somebody's
here we go, Rachel.
Somebody's got a big grin on his face right now, but maybe a little insider information. What is she supposed to, according to you, focus on in this next section of race?
Well, one of the things that she kind of can gravitate to is to overgear a little bit.
Okay.
And we just talked about it on the way out. She's capable of going in a slightly lower gear, maintaining the same wattage, keeping her RPMs a little bit more fluid and faster.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping on that climb coming up that she was selecting the right gear. And again, Matt, what I just mentioned with the men, she knows that the race isn't over, that the hunt is on. And I said, if you can lead this, let them worry about you.
Yeah.
Most of the women know that her buildup last year was not stellar. She had difficulty, a lot of niggling little injuries from Ironman Texas and on. And this year she's had a much more solid buildup, and I certainly know that in working with her. But Rachel's just got to be confident now that she's got the lead and is able to stay on the path and try to open up the gap on the good runners.
Well, that's great, Dave. I mean, that's good insight, and I think, you're right. I talked about that earlier. I love that she got second place 3 times this year because, it's not fun to lose, but it motivates also. She's got a healthy track record this year. Last year, Texas, and then she didn't race till here. Now she's off 3 seconds that are really good seconds, very motivating, and she's obviously fit. And to see that trajectory of fitness, good stuff. Exciting race. And
she was second to Mirinda. Let's make sure we put
that
in there. Well,
pretty good.
If for the best in the world, you don't like to lose to really number one. And Mirinda is the one who is marked as the champion. Who's the favorite? Mirinda.
Sure,
you have to pick her as the favorite. And Rachel has great respect, as Mirinda does, for each other. And it's similar to Mark and myself when we were racing. We didn't go out for a beer, but when the gun went off, the battle was on.
Yep.
And so having the lead right now, yes, is grand and glorious for Rachel, but a long ways to go.
Long ways to go, yeah. That's awesome. I mean, first of all, I just want to thank Specialized for bringing us this live coverage, and a huge thanks to Specialized for bringing us absolute legend, Dave Scott. Dave, I love having you here. It's a dream come true to have you, and good chatting with you. So we will see you soon. Thanks again. We'll catch back up with you.
Good.
Yeah, and we've got Training Peaks is one of our big supporters and sponsors here at Ironman Live, and AJ Johnson was able to sit down and give us a little bit more information on how the pros and age groupers train for a race like this. We're going to go over to Training Peaks.
My name is AJ Johnson. I'm the content manager and power analysis expert for Training Peaks, and we're here to help provide great analysis from the pros and age groupers. What we found was that for people here at the Ironman World Championships, 62% of those athletes were working with a coach. For those people getting into the most prestigious triathlon in the world, it really helps. For the athlete that has used a coach, I think what they're going to do is they're going to follow their plan better. They're going to have a more detailed plan because they'll have specific power range to be in. They're going to be recording also comments from weeks and weeks of training, and they take all of those and they create a really detailed plan that has everything from, like I said, power numbers to when you're going to take nutrition, when you're going to take hydration, what happens if things go wrong, how are you going to handle all that. So they have a much more detailed plan, and then they execute that, and they just have a lot more confidence because of that. If you are using power on this course, I think it's really interesting that what I would recommend to an age grouper is actually the same thing I would recommend to a pro. So really the main thing is to keep your effort smooth. We call it the variability index, basically meaning go nice and steady all day long, don't spike your power. And the other thing is really to keep your percentage effort low, much lower than what a lot of people think. And what that does is it keeps you from cooking yourself early. For an athlete being able to reach their best potential, whether that's getting here to Kona or finishing the top 50% of an Ironman, whatever their goal is, we realize that for them, having a plan, using structured workouts, getting expert instruction is really a key to them achieving their full potential.
Ironman in 3 words: challenge, pain, and determination.
Dedication, passion, excitement.
Addictive, brutal, fulfilling.
Fun, painful, memorable.
Gotta do it.
Awesome, tough, and rewarding.
Pain, suffering, pleasure.
Crazy, hard work, tough.
Really effing hard.
Say hello to Cyclone, the marketplace for triathlon bikes. List your bike and show it off. Buy great bikes from triathletes like you. Ready to sell? Get the best price from another triathlete who values what they're buying. Cyclone, the official bike marketplace of Ironman World Championship.
You can sort out all the world's problems while you're out there, and it makes you feel good about yourself and makes you feel positive. I'm a Newton runner because one thing we share is the love of running.
I was really, really nervous.
I was on like 2 hours sleep.
Nervous, scared, exciting.
Just every single worry and anxiety I probably could have had before the race.
I remember thinking oh, I can't do this is too much.
Foster Grant. Affordable fashion, ultimate sun protection.
Why would I wear anything else?
I'm Pete Jacobs. You're watching Ironman Live.
Sponsors of today's race are Specialized, bringing you today's bike coverage. Earbuds, official sponsor of Ironman. GoPro, the official camera of the Ironman World Championship. Foster Grant, the official eyewear of Ironman. And IronManStore.com, official Ironman merchandise with free shipping on orders over $100. Pete Jacobs is at 12.
Yeah, so we're back here, and we've got Rachel Joyce on the right hand of our screen. Still Sebastian Kienle up on the upper left. We have Rachel Joyce on our camera, but from the splits, it shows that she is actually 20 or 30 seconds behind Daniela Ryf. So we've been calling Rachel as in the lead, but in fact, Daniela Ryf is in the lead. We just don't have a picture on her quite yet, but we'll get that as soon as we can. But right now, we've got Sebastian Kienle and a view behind. And Greg, when we did the turn, Mike Twalsek was within 6 seconds of Sebastian Kienle, 45 seconds back to Frederick Van Leerd. How big of a difference do you think is going to be in the gap by the time he turns left on Kauai High? I think it's going to be a bigger gap.
Yeah, well, it's going to be, of course. You know, the 2014 Ironman World Championship now is really cranking up, and the heat is too with Sebastian Kienle from Germany. You remember a couple of years ago, right around this point, he did have a flat time, but you can see that Kienle now is really cranking it out now. The side wind too, the crosswind here up at Upolu Airport was at 25 miles an hour coming across that right shoulder. Mike Twalsek from Germany as well is also holding his pace with Kienle at the moment. So Van Hoornacker, where a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, where Kienle flattered, was right at this time where Van Hoornacker had to go on and become into the transition area in the lead today. So Kienle is doing a race that he had a couple of years ago, and boy, is he really churning those pedals around.
Absolutely.
And there you go, you got Mike Twalsek right now. Just trying to, keep within Kui, and then Freddie Van Leerd is just dropping back a little bit. So when they turned around at Harvey today, Kienle was the leader, Twalsek was 6 seconds back, Frederick Van Leerd was in third place at 45, Marino Van Hoornacker at 47. Then it was the Frenchman Guillaume, Germany's from Hold, and then the USA's Ben Hoffman was all hanging in there at about 106 to 108 down, with Jan Frodeno right back into the mix.
Yeah, no, that's important to know that Jan Frodeno has gotten his flat tire and he's back up to the group. But important thing to notice, we just saw Sebastian Kienle motoring down, air quotes, down Havid. We still have some good climbs. He went over a roller then, but what we saw was a moto come up next to him with a split board. That's a great thing for Sebastian to know. He knew what the splits were when he turned down from Havid. Now he knows what kind of damage he's put in on those athletes behind him, and that's going to encourage him if the gap is getting bigger. It's possible that it will discourage him on the way down, but Sebastian knows that this windy course, this windy day, he's going to have a great day if he just puts his head down and puts some good power. And someone who knows a lot about putting down good power and how to analyze that is AJ from Training Peaks. He's sitting here with us.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. It's shaping up to be a heck of a race here, 2014 Ironman World Championships. It's really impressive to watch Kienle. I mean, he's so smooth, he's so fast. Coming down from Javi, we see just how much speed he's got. It's really impressive.
Absolutely. And what's the difference in the kind of wattage that an athlete puts out? We all know it's harder to go uphill.
Right.
Sometimes it's easier to go downhill. But for an athlete like Sebastian to be opening up a gap on a field like that, what kind of are his watts really differentiating that much?
Yeah, actually, he's obviously putting out a whole lot of effort going up to Javi, but they are still staying on the gas on the way down. We've seen, last year we had some data from Freddie Van Leerd, and he's still, close to 300 watts on the downhill, average all the way from Javi, and that's, sticking with guys like Kienle and Starkowitz. So, while the age groupers may want to take a little bit of a break and let the legs rest, if you want to stay at the front of this field, you've got to be, really pedaling hard and sticking with the guys up front.
And to be going that rate of speed, what kind of RPMs? You guys notice the RPMs those athletes are pushing?
It's interesting. The guys that are having they have the 54s and the 55 big tooth chain rings. Their cadence is pretty much the same. We have seen in the past where some of the top pros are still running the 53s, and they have to pedal at 110, 120 RPMs. Some guys can handle that. Some guys it taxes a little bit more, but I would bet the majority of the men's field is running a 54. If not, someone like Kienle, Twalsek, those guys are probably pushing 55s, and it's specifically for that reason. They can open up a big gap on the downhill too.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if those athletes weren't on a 55. I know Luke McKenzie, one of the strong ones from last year, he runs a 55 and can go downhill.
Yeah, and last year he was in there with him too. So
yeah, and Daniela Ryf right now, she's approaching the turnaround at Harvey. Now the strong Swiss champion here, she's won 3 Ironmans over the last 3 months, 70.3 world champion just 5 weeks ago in Mont-Tremblant, Quebec, Canada at this year's World Championship. And now as she makes her way up, this is playing into her strengths right now. She is an incredible cyclist with a heavy headwind coming across the left-hand shoulder here, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. And, she's, we'll see, as we saw with Sebastian Kienle, she's going to be going closer and further away from that white line as the wind kind of pushes her. And a good cyclist, as Michael pointed out earlier, a good cyclist is one that can kind of let the bike go. And AJ, how hard is it as a cyclist to be able to put down consistent and steady watts while letting the bike go and having that wind push you around the course?
It's very difficult. You're obviously concentrating on trying to keep a nice smooth pedal stroke, but with these gusty winds, it makes it really difficult for them to just honestly, just keep the bike straight. And that's a little bit, it's the mental energy as well is a big factor, and the stronger cyclists are probably used to it a little bit better, and so they handle with a little bit more natural ability, I would say.
Yeah. AJ, any numbers on our women's out there today?
We don't have live telemetry right now, but we do have great data from Meredith Kessler, obviously one of the top female cyclists. She's pushing, she's going to average right around 225 watts, I would guess, for the entire course. And with the women, that's about 3.7 to 3.8 watts per kilogram, which is, that's for Meredith, and that's on par with some of the pro men. The pro men we typically see around 3.7 to about 4. We've seen as high as 4.2. Wow. Which is really impressive, and that's why Meredith is at the front of the race.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And as we looked at Daniela, we can see right now not quite as well, but you see the bushes and the grass really pushing around. That makes it difficult. I know you looked at a bunch of different watt profiles from last year. What did you notice? We look at this race and we see, okay, hey, now Sebastian Kienle has really put his effort in once he turned up the V, and Mike Twilsek's really put his effort in. Are they actually increasing their wattage, or are they able just to hold that same power throughout the course?
The top guys are going to hold their power throughout the whole course. These guys are coming in with a plan. They know what watt range they want to be in. They're not going to, blow up in the first 40, 50 miles. They're smart, they're looking at their data, and they're making really smart decisions. So someone like Freddie or Luke, when Kienle comes by them, they're going to decide how much do I need to how much effort do I need to put out to stay with them. Obviously Freddie this year is similar last year, tailing on with Kienle, but they're for the most part going to be steady throughout the day. Last year Luke McKenzie actually had higher watts on the way back than on the way out, and he mentioned that he felt they had a little bit of a tailwind on the way out, and he was smart, and rather than really pushing the wattage and trying to go as fast as he can, he realized, hey, I can stick with the guys without putting out big watts. This is perfect for me, and it proved that to be pretty close.
All right, so our women are approaching the turnaround point in Harvey right now in the 2014 Ironman World Championship presented by GoPro. The race record on the bike for the girls is 4:44 from Karen Turek, also from Switzerland. We've got 4 Swiss girls in the race today. 6-time Ironman world champion Natasha Bartman, also Caroline Steffen, been on the podium here before, and Simone Brandy as well from Switzerland. But this girl right now, our women's leader Daniela Ryf from Switzerland, is making the U-turn in Harvey town. Now she has just over 50 miles to go before she heads back to the town of Kailua Kona here. So there she goes, Daniela Ryf in first place on our girls' race right now. Our women's race has turned around from Harvey and heading back. And this is going to be very interesting, Matt, when they get about 2 to 3 miles back down outside of Harvey, where we have the Upolu Airport, and we're going to get those big trade winds coming off the right shoulder. We did see Daniela going into Harvey having trouble keeping the bike straight. This is going to be very, very tough.
Yeah, if she had trouble on the way up, she's going to have a lot more trouble on the way down. But we say trouble, we just notice that she's moving around with the wind.
Well,
she looks like she's handling it quite well.
Yeah, a little bit more danger. And then when you, as a pro athlete, you know this, and a racer on the course, when you're going down through, from Harvey to Kauai High, we have those cutouts that we talk about a lot. The lava, the road cutouts where they go through there. This is the opportunity where they can take their hands off the handlebars and have some nutrition. Also, a good idea is to have a water bottle up front so you can have the straw that goes straight into the mouth, so you don't have to take your hands off the handlebars at all. But this next 19 miles is going to be a true test of toughness and mental willingness.
Yeah, and we're talking about hands off. What we just saw from Daniela, it looked like she slowed down quite a bit, but what she did was we have our special needs area on the right side of the course. She was able to grab her special needs, but she wanted to make sure she got everything out of there because she's planned to have her special nutrition. I actually saw a picture of it she put on the internet a couple days ago. It was a Red Bull with a bag of walnuts strapped around it, right? So that's her secret sauce. She knows that when she gets tired, she wants some walnuts and she wants a Red Bull. Not my first pick on the walnuts, but the Red Bull definitely helps me along the way.
All right, AJ, just before we let you go, one more question, AJ. Now, average watts as opposed to uphill watts, downhill watts, we know that the athletes are going to get tired toward the last part when they turn from Kauai High back to town. And we noticed last year that Luke McKenzie actually negative splitted his wattage, which is absolutely incredible. And that's why an athlete will give themselves the best opportunity to win the race on the second half, right?
Exactly. It's smart decisions. It's good pacing. You race your strengths. And, for guys like Luke and Keenley, it's hard on the, go as hard as you can on the bike and save a little something from the run. Other guys, they just want to stick clear or stick near Keenley and those guys and run them down. And, it's a matter of, like I said, create a good plan and execute and see where you go on race day.
All right, AJ, thanks very much for coming down from Training Peaks, giving us all the information, all the wattage and the cadence and all the scientific stuff that we all live and dream about all day long as triathletes. So thank you very much to AJ from Training Peaks. All right, so we're getting a good look at Daniela Ryf now as she's making her way back down from Harvey. She's just getting comfortable with the clothing there. She's on the bike there, nice little pretty pink color, and she's got her head down. She is moving around on a bike a lot there, Matt, but she is wearing a very ventilated helmet, which I'm very happy to see.
Absolutely, but it looks like she's got something going on there. It looks like she might have put a cold bottle, or maybe she's cooling herself, but I feel like she put something in the front of her jersey that's taking up some space, maybe for aerodynamic profile, but I'd imagine what she's focusing on, maybe something to keep her cooler. That's why she was so focused on grabbing whatever she had out of that special needs. But yeah, great point. It's going to be a hot day, and the windier it gets, the more important it is that you stay cool because you're using more energy. So she's, we said maybe she might make some mistakes because she hasn't raced out here before, but she's heard enough about this race that she's very focused on nutrition and she's very focused on staying cool and staying hydrated, and that puts her much further up the result sheet.
Yes, well, for the very first time as a debut athlete here in Kona, Daniela Ryf is having to work very, very hard for her first place at the moment. Let's wind back the clock into the German summer. It was Wiesbaden. It was the Ironman European 70.3 Championship, and Daniela Ryf put 8 minutes on Leander Cave, who was possibly the fastest cyclist here a couple of years ago when she did win here in Kona for her World Championship. And now we look at Daniela Ryf getting to the front of the course. Should the other girls panic right now?
Well, I don't know about panic, but they should definitely be focused on what's going on ahead of them. So right now, we've talked all week, and we've also talked about Daniela, but we've talked about the fact that those ladies need to make sure that their gap to Marinda Carfrae is big enough. They need to make sure that they're close enough to Daniela to be able to pounce near the end of the marathon, midway through the marathon, if she falters at all. So Daniela is having a great race.
Thanks, buddy.
But yes, you're right. Those other girls need to make sure they're staying steady with their power, not panicking, but pushing good, solid effort and limiting that gap to Daniela, because she's having a great race so far. And on the bottom right side of the screen, again, focused on nutrition and hydration, we have Mike Twalsek. Greg, as we talked about before, on that downhill from Hawi with those headwinds comes it's a challenge to be able to get off your aero bars and to grab water. So Mike Twalsek has refilled his aero bottle, which means he was sucking on his water from his aero bottle on his whole way down. Now, Greg, I know this bike design is it's called a Demond bicycle. It's from TJ Twilsek. He was able to put a bike style that was more similar to what you guys raced on in the past. What kind of bikes were those in the past that we raced on?
Well, it's what we call a beam bike, and back in the day when I won Ironman in '94, I used a beam bike as well. And you can see that TJ Twilsek had a fantastic race this year at the Ironman North American Championship in Mont-Tremblant, Quebec, Canada, when he won his North American Championship this year. And now you got Mike Twilsek, riding one of these bikes too. Very, very nice and fast design in a straight line for sure. Sebastian Kinley there is on screen, and you can see that he's pushing very, very hard there on his bike as well, just working the pedals. You can see that he's got his head tucked down in that position there. You can see Daniela Ryf as well, and she was just trying to get in the aero position like Sebastian was, exactly the same time when Sebastian went through that area. So Daniela just taking a sip out of the front water bottle there, getting into the aero position, and we can see that now Sebastian has Mikey Twalsek in his sights just up ahead, riding about 20 to 30 yards apart. So doing a great job of staying legal out there, as our officials will be on our athletes like they're trained to do. But Danielle, unbelievable right now.
Absolutely, and she's looking to her left as to what kind of gap she's put in on the women, and it's a big gap at this point. She needs to make sure she maintains that effort and is able to keep going, but she's got a long road ahead of her to the end of the day. But right now, we're going to go down in the field with our host, Michael Lovato.
Hey, thanks. Hey, thanks, Matt. Yeah, it's good to hear from you guys. And we're just taking a break from some of the elite coverage to talk about some of our other inspirational causes, including the Ironman Foundation athletes. One of the highlights is Midge Kerr, an Ironman Foundation athlete living in Avalon, New Jersey. Athleticism runs deep in her family. Her husband, Philadelphia Flyers hockey great Tim Kerr. She runs a charity named for him that raises funds through athletic events to help physically and mentally challenged children. Her work's responsible for donating over $50,000 to support the Ironman Foundation. Ever the go-getter, Midge dove right into her first triathlon before she even perfected her swim technique. So she did the thing backstroke the whole way and just kept on going. She's come a long way since then. Keep an eye on her today in the 50 to 54 category, racing with bib number 733. Good stuff. And so I'm lucky enough to be here with the Ironman Community Relations Manager, Betsy Langen. Thanks for joining me, Betsy.
Great to be here. It's very, very exciting.
It is exciting. And so what I wanted to ask you is just to talk to us a bit about what Ironman Foundation does.
Sure. The Ironman Foundation is Ironman's way of giving back in race communities. We support nonprofit initiatives globally, but primarily throughout North America by giving grant opportunities to nonprofits and initiatives in the communities where races take place. And we've given back $30 million since inception, $1.2 million in Kona since 2001, and this year we're donating $130,000 to this community.
Those are some big numbers. It's really great stuff. Can you talk about some of the particular projects that are going on here this year?
Yep. I believe you talked about Don Davey earlier, and he is a former Green Bay Packer. He is also a very active member of the Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation, and we've partnered with them this year to offer grant funding opportunities to first responders throughout the nation. So here in Kona, we supported the Hawaii Fire Department with 20 chainsaws. I guess one thing that they learned last year in the past year with Hurricane Isel, some of the roadways were blocked and they weren't able to access people and get to the site of the emergency. So now they have the opportunity, they have a chainsaw for every fire department throughout the county, thanks to the Ironman Foundation and the Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation. So we're allowing first responders to more effectively respond to emergencies.
obviously something that resonates with all of us. So that's really good stuff and a good way to see exactly how this money helps. So the Ironman Foundation folks, look it up online. I guess you can tell them where the website is and how to find those details.
Yeah, it's ironmanfoundation.org, and we'd love to have you visit our site. Check us out. We do really good work throughout the community. It's a way, Ironman comes in, we sort of take over a town. There's a positive economic benefit, certainly, for certain residents, but this is a way of really reaching some of the more vulnerable members of the community, making sure we're leaving a positive impact in Ironman race communities.
Oh, for sure. That's great. And you know what? In a sport that everyone said is sort of selfish, you get to really think of others, give back to others, and that's good stuff. So thank you very much, Betsy, for joining us. It's an awesome project, awesome program. Thank you for your time. Back to you guys in the studio. We'll let you take over the race again from here.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Michael. So we've got Mike Twalsek has just made the move, and he's the first around the turn at Kauai High. Now he's got a mile climb up to the Queen Kaumanu Highway, where he'll follow the Highway 19 all the way back into Kailua Kona, and that is going to be about 38 miles to go, Matt. And now we can see Mike Twalsek really showing a little bit of hurry in those pedals.
Yeah, he's pushing the power to the pedals, no doubt. And this is a difficult part in the course, Greg. I mean, we talk about Hawaii, we talk about the Queen K. Tell us what's interesting and more difficult about this section of course.
Well, it's uphill, and you've got about 3/4 of a mile that's just about to come. Right there, you can see in the foreground, we've got our two lead, cars up there. One with the Timex, Ironman leaderboard up there with the time of the race on there. And you can see that in about 100 yards, he's just going to start going uphill. You might see him get out of the saddle and sort of switch gears. I'd be very surprised if he went from the big chain ring to the small chain ring, but he might do it just to spin the legs out a little bit. But I wouldn't be at all surprised to actually see him stay in the saddle too. He's riding that strong.
Yeah, he's riding strong, and it's also generally there can be a bit of a tailwind in this section, right? It can be super hot.
He's definitely
it's very warm here.
He's definitely got a tailwind right now. He's got his hands up on the bars. He's just about to stand up and maybe take some of that nutrition down, but he's definitely got the tailwind now. As the athletes come down from Harvey, the cross winds are going to go from the right shoulder to the left shoulder, and that's tailwind direction for what direction he's in at the moment. Now he's just about at the top of the road. You can see right at the top of the hill there, he's going to make that hard right-hand turn, and then he'll go on that road for about another 32 or 33 miles, and then he'll be heading off onto Makala Road, down onto Kuakini Highway, and then he'll make that right-hand turn into town. So with about an hour and a half or so of biking to go, these guys are really cranking right now. There he goes out of the saddle and just working that bike. So you can see how steep it really is.
Yeah, no, it's a deceiving part of the course. It's a short part of the course, but it can also make you feel like you're the slowest person on the planet going through there, because it doesn't seem like it's that tough of a climb. It doesn't seem like it's that steep, but it's so hot, and it's one of the hottest portions of the bike course, because you're not moving very quickly. You have that tailwind. It's just hot there, right? So It can be a very, very hard part of the course. But these athletes, Mike Twalsek, Sebastian Keenley have been here before. They know that those athletes behind them are feeling that heat. And maybe mentally they're giving up a little bit because that's such a hard section. So they're going to make sure they stay on the gas. They've trained this section a lot before. But they're going to be ready to take a right-hand turn on the Queen K. And it's a different wind conditions. They're going to get some wind from the right, but they don't really know what that wind's going to be like yet. And right now we see Mike Twalsek just head by one of the parks, but he's coming up very closely to that turn of the Queen K.
Yeah, one of the parks up there is for one of our Kamehameha hay owls up there. It was very, very famous up there. So you can still go up there and check it out and go on in and see it's made out of all the lava rock, and it's absolutely fantastic monument there. So the hay owl up at Kauai High. All right, so as the girls went down through our turnaround at Harvey, it was Daniela Ryf in first place. 139 down was Rachel Joyce, 141 Mary Beth Ellis, and then at 255 Caroline Steffen and Meredith Kessler were together there. And then we got a big gap, 528 to Jodie Swallow, then Liz Blatchford. Amanda Stevens is hanging tough. Leander Cave is in 9th position at 11.04, and right behind in 10th is Michelle Vesterby. So Marinda Carfrey at this stage is at 11.53. So interesting to see that there, Matt. Marinda Carfrey is catching the likes of Leander Cave and also Michelle Vesterby, two very strong cyclists. So Marinda Carfrey is still in a very dangerous position. Now Rachel Joyce, however, is having the ride of her life, and she's in second place and in striking position right now. Yep. Mikey Tweltzik going through 74 miles there. He's got a 5-second lead on Sebastian Kinley. Marino Van Hohenacke is now in third on his own. Frederick Van Leert in fourth at 2:02 down. And rounding out the top 5, USA's Ben Hoffman at 2:12. So these guys are really accelerating away from the other competition.
Yeah, they absolutely are, and there's some bigger gaps in between those fields. We have Nils Frimhold, and then it's another minute and a half to Tim O'Donnell, Tim Van Berkel, and then another gap to Tim Reed. But then we start seeing 2 minutes from Andreas Raylert to Marco Albert, and Craig Alexander now 6 minutes behind as well. So a lot of athletes in there. We've got 18 athletes now within 6 minutes, but it feels like maybe an hour ago we were talking about 27 within a minute of each other. So no doubt that climb up to Hawi and the descent, air quotes, descent all the way back down has opened up this race. And one of the men doing it has been Mike Twalsek, putting in some super hard turns, putting his effort in at the front of the bike course. And one of Ironman's sponsors is Waste Management, helping out reduce waste that we have at the Ironman World Championships. And we had a moment to sit down with Shane Facteau of Ironman and Tom Carpenter of Waste Management to talk a little bit more about that relationship.
Oh, thanks. Do you want a coconut water?
I'm Shane Facteau, the Chief Operating Officer for Ironman. With me today, Tom Carpenter, the Director of Sustainability Services with Waste Management. Ironman and Waste Management have been in a partnership for roughly 4 years now, starting in 2010 with the Ironman Texas event. And we're really happy to have Tom and his group working with us as we attempt to use Ironman as a platform to promote sustainability. Tom's actually one of our athletes this weekend, racing in the event this weekend. So, Tom, maybe give a little history of our partnership and some of the things that we've been working on.
I think early on we just saw, as an athlete myself, the positive impact that Ironman's always had in the communities that they've been involved. And Waste Management has always worked with our customers to help lower that footprint, improve kind of the recyclability of events, and really what the partnership started is to really start measuring that. Sustainability is a journey, much like an Ironman athlete, but we started to measure, like at Texas, what is kind of that footprint from an environmental standpoint. So understanding what could be recycled, what could be composted, and starting to benchmark that, and what were those lessons learned that we could take to other events.
And you guys have had great success in other events, particularly in golf, obviously with the Phoenix Open. What are some of the differences that you've seen with Ironman and what we do? Obviously, we cover a much broader footprint on a usage basis, simply on 140.6 miles. What are some of the differences and some of the things that I think we've learned collectively that have pointed to some of those differences and challenges?
I mean, just that first point, Ironman comes into an area and sets up the event. So it's unlike a stadium. When we work with, maybe MLB or NFL, it's a stadium and they understand, the impacts throughout that, the operations. But you're coming in and an Ironman event, especially some bike courses, could be one large loop. Each one of those aid stations is generating bottles, is generating wrappers, other things. So understanding how logistically to make that worthwhile for the athletes to be able to capture that or train the volunteers, work with the race directors. But the key thing was to set an agenda in place, put some strategy, but not have it impact negatively against the athlete experience. But then what are some positive things we could do within the community? And we found that, just different methods of collections and really working with the volunteers. The volunteers are always great, from the athlete experience, but just telling them what to do as far as sortation or collection or making it easy for them, we found that there were many quick hits right away.
And one, I think the big learnings from our side is we tend to approach it from a pragmatic aspect where operations, we look at how the pieces fit together. And one of the things we've, I think, put in, I guess, a little bit is the understanding that there's a human capital aspect to this, really putting some focus behind. Talk a little bit about some of the planning we've done and come up with over the past 18 months, really, as we continue to move ahead into 2014 and into 2015 in the future.
I think from the very start, it was really kind of establishing what you want your strategy to be. What does Ironman, what are their goals going to be? And I think from the very top, your CEO kind of embraced that from a strategy, a letter, but then also really you hired a sustainability coordinator And her job is really to start, taking those lessons learned and really drive that from the corporate structure to look at every event. So I think those pieces, and then along with kind of, benchmarking each event and creating almost a playbook. I relate it back to athletes all the time. You have a training plan, a playbook, actually, from your operations standpoint, makes it easier to replicate that from an event to event. And just like you see that experience that an athlete has, they know this is an Ironman event. The finish line has that feel, the look, the way the athlete's treated. I think you could do that same thing from a sustainability agenda and push those things forward to make a positive impact, but then also not negatively impact you from an operations perspective.
And we're in a long-term partnership here, which has been great, because the reality is not to speak for you, but that this has got to be a long-term process.
Absolutely.
We operate in hundreds of communities. Not only, there's one aspect to this, obviously, in the United States particularly, but on a global scale. Where do you think our next steps are? Talk a little maybe about, there's statistical aspects of this. We're not quite there yet in terms of, because of the planning process, but what's the next step for someone like us as someone who's a partner for you?
I think, right out of the gate, we were pretty excited. We put some lofty goals in place, and we realized we needed to take those steps to do it logically. This year, through the partnership, we started just by tracking data. We're gathering waste, recycling, all different data from every event, even from benchmarking kind of a carbon footprint. So that helps you measure to see where you are today, and then best practices of where we can take that. We're doing that with all the North American events right now, the 70.3 and the full length Ironman. But I think the lessons learned there, then you could start to take that and you have that benchmark where you can set your goals next year, but then also take that globally. Because you are a global company, and I think those same lessons learned, those same things that you could drive from a recyclability, a compostability, and really push those events. I think it translates to all your events worldwide. And it really ties in nicely with what we're doing on a global operational scale, because everything we talk about is best practices. Yes. And ultimately, this partnership is just a great example of how we take what is a corporate sponsorship, for lack of a better way, but actually take it into the operational fold and really execute something that, we live in one planet, and ultimately we need to take care of it, and that has to be part of what we do. Right. So thank you very much. Thank you. I think that, it comes down to that's our passion as a company. Many know us as maybe a waste hauler or a recycler, but we're really passionate about, helping companies, helping partners really reduce their footprint and really protect resources, get them back into the cycle. And I think, as an athlete, I see, the events and the areas that we compete with, and you want clean water, you want, not a trashed, road surface or other things, and it's just been amazing how Ironman's really set those goals and is really striving on that journey. It's exciting to see where this is going to go. Great. Thanks a lot, Tom. Really appreciate it. Good to see you again. Good luck this weekend.
Well, the 2014 Ironman World Championship presented by GoPro is underway on the way back from Harvey, and we can see that Mike Twalsek and Sebastian Kienle, the two Germans, are really hammering down from Harvey and also back now on the Queen Ka'umanu Highway as they make their way up to that 80-mile mark there, Matt. And then once they get to that 80 miles, we always say that this is where the nutrition is going to kick in, and this is where the men are going to separate from the boys.
No, absolutely. You're right. That's the difficult part of the course. Now it's been separated quite a bit. I just got an update from one of our spotters out there that we now have 2 minutes and 20 seconds to Marino Van Hoenacker behind Mike Twalsek, who we see on screen right now, and Sebastian Kienle. And then we have Nils Fromhold is 3:05 back with Ben Hoffman right behind him. Nils Fromhold was an athlete that a lot of us were looking at. He's had some great results as of late. He was first place at Ironman Arizona 2 years ago now. Great athlete. We expected to see his name up there today. Right now he's riding in fourth place as this race starts to kind of split apart.
Well, Marino van Hoenacker is in third place all on his own at 2 minutes and 20 seconds down. And then Nils Fromholden and also Ben Hoffman, they are sitting at 3:05 and 3:10 respectively. So it's good news for the USA with Ben Hoffman up there as well.
Yeah.
Tim O'Donnell's in the next group, a little bit back at around about 2.5 minutes down. But it's getting very exciting here as the heat is really now getting quite intense down here in Kona, Matt. There's really not much wind to speak of right here in Kona, but where they are out on the course, it was really blowing a gale out there today from Kauai High, especially up to Harvey and back. So that 38-mile section, gnarly.
Yeah, absolutely, no doubt. Super gnarly section. And as you said, Ben Hoffman, American hope, so to speak. And we haven't seen him this far to the pointy end of the race, I don't believe, ever at the World Championships. Last year, he had a 15th place finish. And a lot of people would look at the 15th and say, that's mediocre. But for Ben Hoffman, just having a good race last year catapulted him to the next level, because now he knows, okay, I can get through Kona, I can have a good race, I can be strong across 3 disciplines and perform at the end of the day. And Ben Hoffman is doing it today. He proved actually in Coeur d'Alene he had a great bike ride. We always know he can ride a bike really, really well, but he got off the bike after a couple flat tires and ran a sub 250 marathon, the best run of his life by quite a bit. And so now he has even more confidence. So now he knows, I'm going to ride well and I'm going to run well. But right now we look at Mike Twalsek on the upper hand left of our screen and Daniela Ryf to the right.
Yeah, exactly. So Mike Twilsek, we saw him up at the lead of the race about 4 to 5 years ago, Mike Twilsek from Germany, when he bust onto the scene for his first Ironman victory. That was up in Wisconsin quite a few years ago now. But Mike, married to Hilary Biscay, of course, and Hilary, an Ironman champion herself. And we know that she's running around town cheering for her husband, Mikey, out here today. So Mike's doing a great job of it right now, and Sebastian Kienle tailing off the end of his fellow German competitor there. Now, Daniela Ryf from Switzerland, she's coming up to the back end of some of our, professional men competitors here, and we can see a lot of our athletes out on the road in between Harvey and Kauai High battling those wins.
Yeah, absolutely. And, these male pros are obviously, in the top 50 of our sport, maybe not having such a great day, but they might be having a good day. And Daniela is just that strong right now. I mean, she's riding the doors off right now. We said last time we looked, she was, almost 12 minutes up on Marinda Carfrey already, 60 minutes into this race. Sorry, this is Mary Beth Ellis.
Mary Beth
through.
Ellis, she's riding behind Rachel Joyce here at the moment, but you can see the beautiful turnover of Mary Beth Ellis at the moment. Remember a couple of years back, she did have that duel out on the Queen K Highway on the way back with Mary Beth Ellis and Rachel Joyce together. So these two girls, when they were trying to chase down Leander Cave, they're back at it again.
Man, and she's a fighter. And we look at last year, we didn't see her up there, so maybe we're not so used to talking about her just 1 year removed, Mary Beth Ellis, but she had a severe shoulder injury and she toughed it out to do the race last year. But man, her track record in Ironman is unbelievable. How many times is she? I think she's won, it's over 6 or 7 Ironmans right now. I don't have it right in front of me, but she does not really know how to lose. She hasn't won on this course yet, but she is a very, very dynamic athlete, and she's gonna fight her way through to stay on these wheels that are in front of her. So she's staying legal distance. As we said, we look at those bot dots. She is at the legal distance of the athlete in front of her, but it looks like Rachel Joyce is still pushing the pace. And we've got a great women's race and really attacking pace on the bike. They're really putting it out there. It's not necessarily what can I do on the day, but they're racing the athletes around them. Right now on our left, we have Sebastian Kienle going through a very, very quick section of the course where he's going to have to slow down a little bit to get this aid, but we've got real experienced volunteers. The volunteers make, it's a thing they do every year. They want to get out and help out in the World Championship. So we got really experienced high-class volunteers out here, and he's able to get a water bottle at 30 miles an hour.
Yeah, well, Kienle lost the first couple of water bottles as he went through that aid station out at Waikoloa. Now he seems to be finding a little bit of pace in those pedals at the moment. But Mary Beth Ellis, let's talk a little bit about her. She's an 8-time Ironman champion. 2 times she's finished runner-up at the 70.3 Ironman World Championships, and last year she was, 2012, she was 5th in this race.
Yep.
She knows how to go. This year she's coming with a different mindset. She's coming with a nutrition plan, something that she really hasn't had before, and now we can see that it's paying dividends on the second part of the bike ride today. So as our girls are getting set to come down toward Kauai High, the men have already gone through Kauai High, and now they are pushing toward Waikoloa. Now, when they get to this point, it is the second windiest section outside of the Kauai High to Harvey section.
Yeah.
Waikoloa is where it really blows as well. Will this pose a problem to these guys?
I don't know that it's going to pose a problem, but it's definitely be a hurdle they're going to have to conquer. It's a tough race out there, and this is one of the tough sections. And it's hard when you're moving that quickly. I mean, sometimes you'll get kind of a cross tailwind as well. So, you can get up over 30, 35 miles an hour in this section easy, especially if you're an athlete like Sebastian Kienle or Mike Twalsek. So, amazing effort that these two guys are putting in right now, and they're not holding back. Sebastian Kienle, he's always going to attack a race like that. We've heard some rumors that he's been seen aqua jogging around, in a pool around Kona as he's been here training. That's not a great thing to see, but who knows? I wouldn't be surprised if Sebastian, just wanted a little recovery and got out there to make sure his competitors saw him. So maybe they'd think, we'll give him another minute or two. And that guy, you can't give any time. And on paper, we look at him, and in the history of this race, a 4th place finish and then a 3rd place finish, generally that means that athlete is ready to make that jump and get a victory. So often we see the champion come from a podium or a top 5 finish before. So Sebastian Kienle has it all. This is the first year he's come into this race without having a world championship that he just got the month prior. So he's coming in fresh. He's probably hungrier than he was before because he's not sitting on that championship title. So Sebastian Kienle really going for it. But right now we do have a shot of Rachel Joyce, in the right-hand screen.
Yeah, so Rachel doing a very, very good job of it right now. We know that she's in very, very good form at this point of the year, and she's put a lot of focus on this race here this year. So incredible to see that she did race back in July in Europe and at Ironman distance, and now she's back here trying to become world champion for the very first time. Marinda Carfrey, however, is at about 11.5 minutes down at this point of time in the race. So we know that as Rachel takes a little peek over her shoulder, that there is pressure being applied from behind. But it's Daniela Ryf from Switzerland who's leading the race right now, and Rachel just looking over her shoulder, maybe for a little bit of help by Mary Beth Ellis.
Yeah, you might see her flick the elbow a little bit. That's the international sign for pull through if you can. But I think Rachel is, as long as everything's legal, I think she's a confident athlete. As Dave said, she's focusing on having nice and even watts and being steady throughout the day. So she's not going to worry too much about the athletes behind her, because she knows that if she rides within herself and she rides nice and strong, she's going to be able to have a great run. And that's what she needs to have. She needs to have a great run. She had a very, very good run last year. She's capable of it again.
And there goes the pass there, Matt. The pass by Sebastian Kienle. Look at his speed in his cadence right now. That's up over 100 cadence at the moment. So Sebastian Kienle is sensing some urgency in the race right now. He's been a little bit injured with his foot over the last couple of months here, and maybe now he's thinking that this is the part of the course that I have to go. Matt, this is a very, very intense part of the course where they go through Waikoloa. They have the Scenic Hill uphill for about 3.5 miles, and then when they get to the top of Scenic Hill, it's just undulating all the way back into town. But now it looks like that Kienle has gone past Twalsek and said, come on, we're going to get as much time in the bank as we possibly can heading into the run.
Yeah, he certainly has. And, me and Michael were talking, there's a bit of the countrymen, they're going to support each other. And, this is, as you're right, this is a part of the course where now the elastic has snapped, and they're getting, splits from the board on what kind of gap they have on those athletes behind. And they know it can get way bigger than it currently is. So if they keep on the pressure and they use each other, use that motivation of a countryman pushing as hard as they can, and going back to the old days of the German train. But those guys are capable of getting a lot of time. But I guarantee you, those, that was encouragement. That was a great encouragement from Sebastian Kienle, saying, come on, man, let's keep it tough. You came through, you pulled for that long section. Maybe you're letting up a little bit. Let's keep on the gas, and we're going to have a great bike ride for this last 40 miles.
Yep, the women's race continues here, looking very, very good at the moment. So Rachel Joyce out in second place at the moment. Daniela Ryf is leading our race. Now on the men's side of things, let's talk about the German stronghold that they've had over the years of Ironman racing here. It all started with Wolfgang Dietrich. He was one of the great athletes, you know, back in the 90s, and then it went over to Dirk Ashmanite. And then also Thomas Hellriegel was one of those guys that just got out there and absolutely hammered through the course. Lothar Leder and also Norman Stadler. He was the new wave. He won the race twice. Thomas Hellriegel once. And now it goes over to guys like these two, mate, Twalsek and also Sebastian Kienle. Now they are at the front of the course doing well again. But this is time to head on over to GoPro with Michael Lovato. What do you got for us, Mikey?
Hey, thanks, Greg. And you know, the cool thing about GoPro is they're presenting this race to you, but they're not just sitting on the sidelines as a title sponsor. They've brought their equipment in here. They brought the action in. I'm standing here with Aaron. Aaron, what the heck am I looking at here?
You're looking at a GoPro 40 array camera setup, and we just brought it here to work with NBC and add a lot more production value.
That's super cool. And so it's an array, 40 cameras. I'm not sure what I'm hearing. John, talk to me here about really what that means.
So all the cameras are connected via special synchronized cables, and that means they start filming at the same time and stop filming at the same time, which lends to our post-production workflow.
Okay, I'm picking up. So Nate, so what does that mean when the viewers see this footage? Tell me what that means to them, what they'll see.
So basically what that means is once we get our technical specs set, we get all the cameras synced, we start filming a moment. Say we have a biker coming out, they're going to mount their bike, and it's a really great moment. We can take that single frame, freeze it in time, and travel all the way down these cameras. And you get this really cool rotation movement right in the middle of the shot. Kind of like the Matrix.
There you go. So it's like the Matrix. Excellent. Okay, so that just made the picture. It sounds really cool. So in a word, Tyler, just tell me, in a word or two or 12, what are we talking about here?
So essentially, time travels through the cameras instead of forward into time.
It just blows my mind. That's totally cool. The awesome thing for viewers, you've got this contraption here. You see the behind the scenes. If you tune in on November 15th, the NBC show, it's going to show this cool footage. I can't wait to see it. We'll see it live here, behind the scenes, November 15th on the scenes, NBC. Thanks, guys.
Very much, Michael, for that great shot with the GoPro Array. This is the 2014 Ironman World Championship brought to you by GoPro, and we cannot wait for that NBC show coming up November 15th. So here's a very important part of the course as we try and get our girls back into Kailua Kona safe and sound. Rachel Joyce is just picking up some very, very much needed nutrition at the moment. You can see just going through those aid stations, Matt, she has slowed down beautifully to pick up and make sure that she does not miss any aid.
She has, and this is an important section. It gets really hot through here, and this is coming up on the section we talked about earlier where you turn left on Kauai High. So if you've spent some time maybe not drinking as much as you would normally coming down that hill because of the crosswinds, you know the hottest part of the course is coming up and then followed by that Waikoloa section. Like this course just does not let up, right? So this is a section where you're coming on a rise and you're on a downhill going into that aid station. You've got to slow down, get what you need to. You might need 2 bottles. You might need 3. You want to get as much as you can on board and in the system as you can for this section of the course because that internal temperature is going. And these women are putting huge efforts in. And right now we did see, it looks like Mary Beth Ellis has come around and is in the second place in this group here. But one thing, we were talking about that German stronghold, Welchie, and we do have Nils Fromhold as well in 4th place currently. He wants to put his name in there. Another one that we saw, Jan Frodeno, we saw him get a flat tire, and I just got news from on course. It sounds like he actually had a penalty on course as well. And we're going to find out quite quickly if that was a 4-minute penalty, if it was a stand-down penalty, but he has received a penalty as well. So, this course is a different dynamic. There's so many good athletes on this course that are struggling through these conditions. It's hard your first time here to hit it right every time, and Frodeno is having a tough time with a penalty and a flat tire. Flat tire obviously wasn't quite his fault, but so he's having a tough day right now. But right now, looking at Rachel Joyce coasting a little bit in this downhill section, beautiful technique from Rachel, grabbing her bike with her knees, making sure she doesn't get blown around by the crosswind at all. She's resting. She knows that if she's going 35 miles an hour, she doesn't need to pedal as hard as she can. She can rest just a little bit, keep that speed up, and keep going through. But one thing I'd like to to point out, Greg, is what we've said. I have not seen Rachel look back once or push that elbow. Have you? Well, I'm just looking in the wrong place. But she's it looks like she's content at least with setting the pace.
Yeah, you definitely need your eyes checked, mate. She's looked over quite a few times, but I know what you're saying. I mean, I don't think she's showing she's looking over her shoulder.
Yeah.
In desperate attempts to see if there's anybody else coming.
Gotcha.
I just think that she's making sure that the other pro men that she's overtaking, or maybe Mary Beth Ellis, are keeping legal distance and things like that. But at this time, much can happen throughout the long race today, and it's good to know that SRAM is out there on the course providing support to the pros and age groupers. Here's Dave Liberty with more.
We're excited to have partnered with Ironman this year to provide neutral support services for both pros and age groupers alike. We'll be providing race day services literally from transition to transition. So we'll have pro mechanics out in the transition area starting at 4:30 a.m. and they'll be there with them and out on course until the last age grouper is off the course. We will have a Volvo on course that is basically a rolling bike shop. It's got pretty much anything drivetrain-wise, wheel-wise, aero bar hardware-wise that could fail to keep these guys in the race. And then 2 motos and 2 scooters that are primarily wheels for, flats. The fastest wheel for the athlete on the day is the one they are most comfortable with. If you can stay in your aero position and keep power on the pedals, that is faster than something that might have a better aero profile, but you're not as comfortable with. So, Zip offers a full range of rim depths and styles, and you'll see quite a variety out there among the pros as well as the age groupers. We are humble and appreciative of all the athletes that we get to work with at all levels, and we want to wish everybody good luck and race hard.
Changing from short course to long course, the shiv has been crucial. The fuel cell is fantastic. Instead of taping bars or gels to your frame, it just makes it super aero and super clean and super tidy.
Foster Grant. Affordable fashion, ultimate sun protection.
Why would I wear anything else?
The body is incredibly powerful. It's nimble and fluid, but sometimes we push it too far. That's when you need the strength of Memorial Hermann and our body of affiliated orthopedic specialists. With our Ironman Sports Medicine Institute, they not only get your body back to where it was, they get it to go further. It's what makes us more than just hospitals. We are a body of experts. Memorial Hermann, advancing health.
Champions aren't born. Champions are made. Will, determination, greatness. Here, get made.
My dad used to say, champions are made when no one is watching. Momentum. The power to keep pushing. the discomfort zone. That's what I'm building with chocolate milk. What are you building? Nutrients to refuel, protein to rebuild, backed by science.
I'm Sebastian Kienle, and you are watching Ironman Live.
Coverage today is sponsored by Power Bar Perform, the official sports drink of Ironman. Milk Pep, the official refuel beverage of Ironman. Ironman Pro Eyewear by Foster Grant, the official eyewear of Ironman. GoPro, the official camera of the Ironman World Championship. And IronmanStore.com, official Ironman merchandise with free shipping on orders over $100. Welcome back to the 2014 Ironman World Championship presented by GoPro. Getting a good look at Rachel Joyce. She was last year's runner-up at the World Championship, and this year still in second position here behind Daniela Ryf from Switzerland, but she's riding very, very nicely as she's approaching that Kauai high turn. Ready, set, go. Back onto the Queen Ka'umanu Highway, and then she's going to be making her way back toward town. So our men are less than 20 miles to go now, less than 20 miles. So do you know, in about 40 minutes' time, they're going to be coming back into Kona and then getting set to head out on that 26-mile Newton run course. But this is the Blue Bicycles official bike course today. So there we see Mary Beth Ellis from Colorado doing a very, very nice job just keeping Rachel Joyce in her sights as she did 2 years ago, Mike.
Absolutely. And you know what? We talked about this section. I know you guys saw with the men, but this is seriously the hottest section of the race on the bike so far. It just gets oppressive. You've come down out of a breezy section. You got a mile-long climb. You talk about it's an inferno. It really bakes you up. You don't know whether to sit, stand, sit, stand. It's a mile long, so you have to kind of do both. So Mary Beth tacking in very nicely, using Rachel Joyce's energy, using her lead. That's really good. And the fact of the matter is these two are in prime position to just forge ahead and gap some of these women that are chasing. It's a nice spot to be in right here.
Yeah, exactly. So Rachel Joyce having the experience of coming in second place last year, with Mary Beth Ellis in 2012 coming in fifth place. So we know that these two are the seasoned veterans at the front of the race here, but they are chasing Daniela Ryf from Switzerland, leading the race right now by Rachel and Mary Beth, these two on screen. Now, Daniela Ryf, we mentioned a couple of hours ago that she put on 8 minutes over Leander Cave, one of the strongest cyclists in Ironman, in the Wiesbaden 70.3 European Championship, just last summer, and she went on to win an emphatic victory there. But then she went on to win the 70.3 World Championship too, Mike. But the point that I'm trying to make is how many more minutes is she going to put on these girls on the way back into town?
How many? That's a good question. And how many does she really care to have? Because I don't think she feels insecure about her running ability. We talk about that. Obviously, you have to dole out the energy, save it, conserve it, and use it when you need to. And I don't think that Ryf is coming in here thinking, if I don't have X number of minutes, I'm toast. But it'll continue to grow. This is when it gets hard. This is when you get back on the Queen K and you really, the nature of your work is in front of you. That's when you just sit there and you say, oh goodness, because I know Dave said it, a lot of people have said, hey, a lot of people can ride through 50, 60, 80K. Personally, really, I feel like most anyone at this level, no matter how you slice it, is going to get to mile 80 pretty well. It's who gets over those last 32 miles. When you come in mile 90, you come up to Scenic Point, we'll see that. It's a long, awful climb. Some people excel in that area, some people not so much. So there's a lot of tough racing to be done in that part. This is interesting. I mean, it's just like you got a shadow there, Rachel. It's absolutely, you stand, she stands, you sit, she sits. It's a little bit of a mirror, reverse. What's it called? A rearview mirror. You look back and what am I doing?
Well,
that's what I'm seeing.
This is deja vu from 2 years ago. This is exactly how the two raced, and they raced very closely the whole day 2 years ago. So we see Rachel Joyce now has hit the Queen Ka'umanu Highway, so we do know that she's got 38 miles to go, and also for Mary Beth Ellis. So the two that have just gotten on to the Queen K Highway for the very last time today. Now it's downhill for a little bit of rest, and they go past the fire station, then they pass the Mauna Kea Hotel, and then all the way down into Waikoloa Village. Now once they get to Waikoloa Village, pretty flat for about 5 miles, and then they have a 3-mile climb up to the top of Scenic Point. Very beautiful course on the way, but we are getting word that we are, getting a headwind out on course as well, Mike. So the headwind is really going to pose a bit of a problem for our athletes because, they've had a headwind and a crosswind and pretty tough conditions so far as they made their way out of town to Harvey. When they turned around at Harvey, they got hit with a pretty heavy crosswind.
Yeah, and that's just, it takes a lot out of the body as well. Let's talk about the little intricacies. So you're also tenser. You try to relax, but you're tenser, so you get a little more tension up here. You hold your shoulders high. All that stuff, it wears on you. Every little bit of energy taken out. You liken it to a 100-meter dash. You see these guys running. You have to be relaxed to make it that 10 seconds. In this longer race, if you have those little bits of tension, people have been sore in the forearms, in the shoulders after an Ironman. It's not from the swim, it's from the bike. So all that stuff to mount up. You get out on the highway coming home on the Queen K, it's relentless. And those headwinds that you had before, you're thinking in the back of your head, I should have a tailwind now, right? No, not the case. So you're going to see that in your face. There's some still air in there in the middle. And man, let me tell you, it's a long haul back. And you're also sort of thinking, right now, I think what Rachel Joyce is thinking, Mary Beth's with me, interesting. Do I have her on the run? I think I've got her on the run. Mary Beth's thinking, I'm with Rachel. Can I keep up with her on the run, or does she have me? There's always an assessment. It's who's with me. Can I outrun so-and-so? Can I outrun this person? It's a sort of a poker match that you're going through in your head.
Yeah, and it's rare that we have anything more than a puff of wind down here in Kona. We're sort of protected around to the south and west, facing spot, but it's rare that anything happens above 6 miles an hour or so, and I can feel like a nice breeze coming out of the south right now down here in town, so I can just imagine what it's like out on there on the Queen K Highway right now, because they are going in the north to south direction, so straight into the teeth of the wind.
Good point, really good point, and it is so seldom, and what'll be cool is if this breeze is still kicking when they start the run, because at least then you're going to have that
first. That'll be nice, wouldn't it?
It'll be that first, exactly. They would love it. 8 or 9 miles on a Li'i, where you're in and out of the woods there, so to speak, where there's usually a rainforest effect where the trees stand tall and you can't get any access to breeze. If the breeze is churning up anywhere in there, they're going to love it.
Yeah, the first 10 miles of the Newton Run course is the only place they get any relief at all from the sun. It's beating down pretty hard at the moment. We talked about our Foster Grant weather report earlier on today, and it was going to be 86 degrees here in town. It feels like the humidity's picking up again, Mike, and we haven't even approached, midday yet.
I'd say, sure. No, not even close.
And it usually doesn't even pick up until the afternoon. So, it's been very humid and very warm in Kona. So unusual high humidity levels, higher than normal over the last couple of years or so. But the high winds are really challenging our athletes now, as our lead women, our first 3 women, are on the Queen K Highway and heading back toward town. And just to give you an idea, when they went through that 74-mile mark there, Mike, Daniela Ryf, she had a bit of a lead. She had a 2-minute and 7-second lead on Rachel Joyce and Mary Beth Ellis as they went through there. And then also, right behind these girls in 4th place today was Caroline Steffen at 4:14. Meredith Kessler's dropped back a little bit to 4:53, and Jodie Swallow is really having a tough time of it, 6:48 down, but they have about 4 minutes over the rest of the group. Liz Blatchford, Amanda Stevens, Heather Wurtle, Marinda Carfrey. So Marinda Carfrey has now dropped down to 10th position at 12 minutes and 40 seconds down.
And you know what? These are just splits right now, but they're going to become reality when they get off the bike in transition too. And so, somebody, it's funny, they said, hey, Michael, how much coffee have you had? You seem really excited. Absolutely. A small cup this morning, because this action gets me so excited. I'm already feeling the heart rate come up. No kidding, folks. It's not just a play here. I love it when these guys start to get close. You think, is 12 minutes, 13 minutes, 14 minutes too much for Rennie? Well, you know what? She doesn't think so. We've seen Heather Fuhr of, days past run down 13 minutes. It's 30 seconds a mile. No big deal. So Rennie, I think, again, I mentioned this in a bit of a preview. If Rennie decides that she's going to try to get after it too aggressively too soon, it could cause her to blow. We saw that in 2012 when she ran up to the shoulder of Leanda Cave and faltered. If she doesn't manage that energy, it's going to be a long marathon for her. But as we look, again, I love talking about what we do know. We do know that Daniela Ryf, gaining confidence. She's doing what she was told she would do by her coach. This is what you're going to do. You're going to get out there. You're going to do this, okay? She's doing that. So that feels very good. That's confidence building, confidence boosting. Rachel Joyce, same deal. Her coach has said, here's what you're capable of. here's what you're going to do. You know how to do it. She went from, as we all know, 6th to 5th to 4th. She skipped 3rd, jumped to 2nd place, and now she's primed to take that next leap. Mary Beth Ellis, she didn't finish last year, but she was 5th in that year where Rachel got 4th. So, you know what, this is an experience, a lot up front, experience in that top 3, top 5. It's a good situation. Having the opportunity here, Greg, to go through, let's see what Rachel grabbed. She grabbed right away a Ironman Perform, a water to cool herself. Mary Beth rolling through just behind. She's also grabbing the same aid. Here's it. Here's what she does. She's cooling every bit of her. With all that fabric on, in particular that darker color, it's no big deal as long as it's wet. She's keeping it wet, pouring that water down the front, grabbed the Ironman Perform energy drink to keep her going. She's got that in between her aero bars. Well-managed aid station. She's taking a bite or a goo, whatever she has on board. See her popping that in the mouth. So that's, this is just management. And
Lovato's pick is looking good. That's all I can say. The Rachel Joyce right now looks very good on the bike, very composed. She really hasn't changed the seat position or anything. She hasn't been wiggling around on the bike seat. She hasn't had to, get out off the saddle too many times, and looking very good. She's done the brunt of the work. Mary Beth Ellis hasn't really gone and helped her whatsoever today, so that just tells me that Rachel Joyce is very strong today and in very good position to take this race. I tell you, with Mirinda Carfrey at 12:40 right now, that's going to blow out to be around about 14 minutes or a little bit more, at the end of the bike ride today. That's really good news for Rachel Joyce, because Mirinda Carfrey was within 8 minutes last year. Mirinda Carfrey ended up winning by 5 minutes anyway. So this year, Rachel Joyce has really improved on a position heading, back toward town.
Yeah, absolutely. Good points. And, we didn't get to see Mary Beth come to the race fresh last year or even fit, because of the crash she had going into the race. So she's kind of an unknown. She hasn't won anything big this year. But, Mary Beth, again, in a very consistent training pattern, a very consistent build. I like, again, for her change of coach puts her in Siri's hands. Siri brings a positivity, a mental belief. I like that for her, because it gets long and hard out there, and if you're not positive, you don't have that outlook, the belief in yourself, you're going nowhere.
Yes, absolutely. We're looking very good right now with Mike Twalsek from Germany. He trains out of Tucson, Arizona. He's a very strong cyclist, and today, yes, using the beam bike technology here, we can see that Mike Twalsek is having a great day out there in the saddle there with also Sebastian Kinley. Now, Kinley is working very, very hard now. These two were only separated by 6 seconds a few minutes ago, and they're still separated by the same amount of time. Marino van Hohenacker is in 3rd place on his own at 3 minutes and 4 seconds down. Then it is 4:39 right through to 4:47. We have a group of 4 athletes: Freddie Van Leerd, Ben Hoffman, Niels Fromhold from Germany, and Romain Guillaume from France. They are doing a fantastic job of trying to limit the amount of time that they are losing to our athletes up front. Tim O'Donnell sits in a very good position with, also from the USA, Andy Potts at just over 7 minutes down. So the two Americans, are inside of the top 10 at the moment, also with Ben Hoffman. So that's great news with 3 USA athletes in the top 10.
For sure. And how about your people, Greg? I mean, Tim Reed, the Aussie, if he's right where he is, 10th place right now, let's not forget how good this guy runs. I mean, he may be out there in a Speedo, which I like because it cools him off a bit. It's rocking the old school. He's representing. But you know what? Tim Reed, let's be serious. This guy can really, really run. So a good position to be in right now, already in the top 10, even if he lost 2 or 3 spots for whatever reason. Tim Van Berkel also having a great race. That guy can run. Raylard, it's so funny how we stopped talking about Andy Raylard. This guy was never off the podium until recently, and now he's just lost favor. But the guy is absolutely amazing. One of the best runners around.
Exactly, and also Paul Matthews. I mean, we've talked about it all week. He's done 3 Ironman races with sub 2:49 splits every time. I mean, he's never done a run over 2 hours and 48 minutes on the marathon, and he's actually never gone slower than 8:05 on an Ironman course. So that's all going to change today.
Yeah, that is going to change. Good point, Greg, because that is going to change, because those speedy courses, they sort of don't give you much when you come out here. Same thing with Starkowitz. We see him slip to 31. I mean, sometimes you take the bull by the horns, and I have to say it, you get stuck, and that's what we are seeing happen here. Again, Greg's point to the wind is very nice for us in the commentary booth. We're getting a breeze. It's going to be nice for the runners when they start out. It is absolutely cool. I love that we finally got a windy year out here. Reports are it's windy. I love that. It's just, some of the athletes hope for it and they put it on record. I hope that it's, Meredith Kessler asked for heinously windy was the quote. You know what? She got it, and she's a strong, tough lady, still fighting it out. Right now, it's, again, on your lower right, it's Mary Beth Ellis just behind Rachel Joyce. That's second and third with Daniela Ryf up the road from Switzerland. The Angry Bird, they call her. And then as we look to the men, that's Mike Teslik, a guy, wow, he's got the proven record. He just went away for a while, and it's really cool to see that when he decided to dip his toe back into Kona, he came away with this incredible performance so far.
3 Belgians we got up the front. 2 Belgians, 3 Germans, and 3 USA athletes, all inside of the top 9 at the moment. So 3, 3, and 3 as we've got on our men's course. On the women's side of things, we've got Daniela Ryf from Switzerland, who is powering off the front in the lead of this women's race here at the 2014 Ironman World Championship presented by GoPro. And as you can see there, Michael, as she's coming down from the Mauna Kea Hotel toward the Waikoloa Village area, in a very good position.
Yes, it's a great position, and we talked about these two women having a lot of familiarity with one another. It's multiple Ironman championships. They've raced each other a lot. They have a similar, strength in that they're both, they're just both great all-around athletes. A lot of people talk about Mary Beth Ellis's past, which I like to point out. Her past, she came to triathlon, she came to Ironman racing from marathon racing. She was very good. She found herself getting injured in marathon, came to this sport, picked up, she swam in college, so it's like she picked it up pretty well, won her first race as an amateur at Boulder Peak. She was, just right in it right away, good. And then obviously won the first Ironman in a record time, and then, 8 Ironman titles. So Mary Beth has really got a lot to draw on, and that's why I bring it up. She's got a lot of, mental tricks, a lot of belief. Here we go. We're climbing a little. This section, Greg, you know this section really well. It's sort of a mind bender. You're going up, and then also you're going to go down. A headwind hits you. Yeah. And you look down. You're going 17 miles an hour down this hill, thinking, "Is this really down? It must be up. Surely it's up." And the road just—it's funny how it plays tricks on you. Psychologically, you just have to hold strong.
Yeah, well, I think there's one girl that's holding strong right now, and that's Rachel Joyce. She's trying to, not let Daniela Ryf extend that lead that she has at the moment, and she looks pretty good. She's just staying in that nice aero position there. She is, however, going uphill at the moment, Rachel Joyce is. She's just gone by the fire station. That's 5 miles away from the Monolani area and the Waikoloa area. So once they get to that point, it's going to be smooth sailing along the flats for about 5 miles until they hit Scenic Hill. Once they hit Scenic Hill, nice 3-mile uphill section before they just go on an undulating course all the way back into town. But right now, Rachel Joyce looking very good on the bike at the moment. I tell you what, she's in the best position out of anybody at the moment other than Daniela Ryf out there in the lead of this race. So these two girls are leading the way all the way back into town. You can see that there's not really many clouds to speak of, but there is a decent headwind.
Well, here it is, and this is the picture, to anyone that I would talk to. You can see the trees of Monolani marking the village there, but look ahead. If you can see that entire mountain, and we've said this before, the insider scoop, if you can see both of those mountains, Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa, if you can see those two mountains, it means the run is going to be very hot, very, very hot. So looking ahead, I see those two mountains. That's a tiny cloud. That doesn't help for anything. So I'm looking ahead, and I'm thinking, if I'm in the race, I'm thinking, now's the time to really bring up the fluids, really bring up the hydration. Now's the time, remembering, as we come off the bike and we get ready to start that Newton run course, we need to keep in mind the sweat rate rises up really high. So you got to be ready for that with a lot of fluid.
Okay, so
and absolutely, we absolutely. So when you're out there, and you guys have seen these guys, you see them when you're racing. You may not see them. However, you do notice these still photographers they're hiding in there, and the videographers all around the course. Those are the photo pros documenting a race by Finisher Picks. Here's an interview we have with Robbie Little of Finisher Picks. Thanks, Robbie.
My name's Robbie Little. I'm the managing director of Finisher Picks, and we oversee the personal photos and video operation for the Ironman World Championship, as well as most other Ironman events worldwide. We really go all out here for the Ironman World Championship. We have photographers at over 20 locations throughout the course. We have over 15 video cameras capturing HD footage of athletes throughout the day, and we work tirelessly going through these 100,000 plus photos throughout the day and night on Saturday to have everything ready for them in the lobby of the King Cam on Sunday. They can come by, they can see all their pictures on iPads and get them right then and there and take them home with them in high resolution. We also have the Finisher Picks Facebook app, which you can find on the Ironman Facebook page, which allows the athletes to have their photos pushed directly to their Facebook timeline, so all their friends and family that are with them on social media can see how they looked, good, bad, or ugly. And we also, at our website, finisherpicks.com/Kona, athletes can go on there and enter for a chance to win their photographs for free as well. There's all kinds of great information they can see before or after the race. Here at Finisher Picks, we like to say that we're powered by smiles, and that's 100% true because it really motivates us to see the athletes making their way around the course. And so we encourage you to keep smiling throughout the day, even when it hurts, and come see us on Sunday to check out your photos. Aloha.
Welcome back to the 2014 Ironman World Championship presented by GoPro, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome the Chief Executive Officer of Ironman right now, Mr. Andrew Messick, joining us. Andrew, you enjoying your day?
It's been fantastic so far. We've got great races happening right now.
Yeah, we got great professional races out there, and also our age groupers. It was great to see Apollo Ono getting out of the water. We had Alex Zanardi getting out, Dave McGilvray, Sister Madonna Buddha beat it by 2 minutes. But the real race up front, our professional race, has been a very hardly fought race right now. You were out there. Give us an idea how hard the wind was blowing.
Well, it's unusually hot, particularly in Waikoloa, and out at Hawaii, all the way from Kauai High to Hawaii, it's blowing hard. A lot of white caps, probably 30 knots of breeze, and right into the teeth of the athletes as they climb up to Hawaii. So I think it's going to be a big challenge for the pros, a big challenge for the age groupers.
So it was a good year for you to sit out then. All right, on to the next thing. Andrew's brought along a special guest today, Chemo from Lifetime Fitness, to announce a nice new partnership. Andrew, why don't you take it away?
Well, we're partnering with Lifetime Fitness to really work in partnership with them to bring new people into the sport of triathlon. And so between Ironman and Ironman 70.3 and Lifetime's races and the indoor tries that they have at their clubs around the country, we really think that there's an opportunity to introduce many thousands of new people to the sport of triathlon. And we want to encourage new people to join the sport and to start small and to work their way up, and eventually the dream is to come here. But you have to start somewhere, and we want to provide a platform that really encourages athletes of all abilities and all ages and all genders to really start to take the first steps in their journey that, who knows, might end up here.
So why don't you talk about the partnership that we have with Lifetime and also with Chemo today? Well, Chemo, you must be very excited about the opportunity to work with Ironman.
Oh, we really are. Well, gee, we're very excited. As you know, we've been heavily involved in the triathlon space for a number of years. Started with our CEO, Brahma Krati, is real passionate about the triathlon space. And we've made a big investment and want to continue to grow not only our business but partner with Ironman to provide an opportunity across what we call a continuum of triathlon. We have athletes that enter the sport, coming off the couch doing an indoor try at one of our 112 clubs around the country. They might start at one of our sprint events, one of our Olympic distance events, and we think we've got one of the nicer portfolios of sprint and Olympic events around the country with Lifetime Tri. And we want to provide that opportunity to bring people into the sport, and we know that ultimately their journey will probably end with a longer endurance type event that Ironman offers.
That's fantastic. And also in a couple of weeks' time, we've got the grand finale happening at Oceanside, just up the road from my place. So that's going to be absolutely fantastic. But that's exciting news. And Andrew, with this association, another partnership, it's just pushing the Ironman brand off into the stratosphere. They're doing very well right now. Give us a state of the health of the sport.
Well, I think the first thing before we finish with Lifetime is starting in 2015, athletes that participate in Lifetime's events will join our age group ranking program, will join the Tri Club program, will join the All World Athlete program, and we really want to promote among long distance athletes doing short distance races. You know, we philosophically believe that for an athlete to maximize the likelihood of them having the best day they can when they're doing an Ironman or a 70.3, they should be doing short distance racing in the lead up to that. And by having the lifetime races be a part of age group rankings and in the All World Athlete program, we provide an incentive for them to do more short distance races. And conversely, we think there's an opportunity to talk to the short distance athletes that are racing with Lifetime, to encourage them to set their goals towards bigger, larger, longer goals. So we think there's a really natural fit and a really powerful overlap, and that it's going to be very good for our athletes and gives them more opportunities to race within our collective system, and more opportunities to benefit from that. With the state of Ironman right now is really strong. In 2014, we added 24 new races around the world. We added them in Asia Pacific, we added them in Europe, we added them in Latin America, we added them in North America. And what we find is that there are more and more athletes participating in the sport of triathlon, wanting to race, and more athletes in particular who are dreaming about Kona. And this year's Kona race is more international than ever, 200 countries. Only 35% of the athletes are American, which 10 years ago was unheard of. And so we feel that by having additional races, we provide more opportunities for people to race and more opportunities to build athletes around the world. And in 2015, I don't think we'll have 24 new races, but we're going to have more than 15 for sure. And again, those are in places like Pula, Croatia, Antalya, Turkey, Dublin, Ireland. And second race in the Philippines. We're going to have 2 additional races in South America in 2015. And those are all places where we're confident that there either are pockets of athletes or there will be, and that there are going to be more people who are fired up and excited about the possibilities of competing with us, coming across the finish line, and ultimately either competing in the Ironman World Championship or the Ironman 70.3 World Championship.
Yep, exactly. So Andrew, thank you very much for your time today, and also bringing in Chemo today. We're very excited about the association with Lifetime Fitness and everything in the future. So thank you very much, gentlemen. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we can't wait to see our champions coming across the finish line in about 3 hours from now.
Who do you think is going to win?
Well, my pick, well, thanks for putting me on the spot, but I'd like to say someone like Sebastian Kinley at the moment sitting in very good position, but it's hard to go by Freddie Van Leert at the moment. He's only sitting about 4.5 minutes down, and it's approximately the position where he was last year, and everything in the women's race right now points toward Rachel Joyce. So that's only because you asked, and thank you. And if it was anybody else, I wouldn't have said anything. So Andrew Messick, the CEO of Ironman, and also Chemo for coming down today. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thanks, Greg.
All right, that is Andrew Messick and Chemo also coming in from Lifetime Fitness today. On screen, we can see Sebastian Kinley from Germany, and he is powering his way. He's almost at the airport here, so that is just over 6 miles to go when he hits the airport as he makes his way back into town. Mate Twalsek, also from Germany, is sitting right up in that lead area. Marino van Hohenacker in 3rd place today. That is your top 3 on the men's. And the women's race, it is still Daniela Ryf from Switzerland. From the Great Britain area, that is Rachel Joyce. And also representing the USA, Mary Beth Ellis is sitting in 3rd position right now. Now, as the athletes are making their way back in toward town, a 26.2 mile marathon, a 42.2 kilometre run. The Newton Run course is ahead of these guys and girls, and I tell you what, it is really heating up in town at the moment. The humidity is just starting to crank up in the early part of the last part of the morning of today. We've had an incredible morning already. We had low humidity around about 2 hours ago, but we started out with 76% this morning, and it feels like it's getting back up again. So Michael Lovato is going to be joining me back in commentary here. As Michael, we look over the pier right now, 0 bikes, and very, very shortly there's going to be about 2,000 of them.
There it is. I love it. Here we go. We've got Sebastian Kinley looking good, doing his thing as we've seen him do. Whoa, what about this? That's an athlete that's getting overtaken. I didn't catch it. Was that almost looked like
That was one of our men athletes.
I know,
there,
but which one?
Oh, I don't
nice
know. I didn't really see anything there. I was just focusing in on my times here at the moment. But, yep, we can see that Rachel Joyce still looking very, very good there. So getting back to our men's race, Sebastian Kienle there with Meg Twalsek up in the lead of the race. And I was saying to Andrew Messick there, Mike, about what's going on in the men's race at the moment. You know, Freddie Van Leer looks like he is in a very good position. You know, Sebastian Kienle, we also know that he can run a very good marathon. But the $1 million question is, or the $120,000 question is that, has Sebastian got enough fitness? Has he got enough legs to get to that finish line? We know that he's been battling a little injury there, and we can now see the airport. So he's just over 6 miles to go, Mike, as he makes his way back toward town. So just over 6 miles. We're looking at just over 12 minutes.
Yeah, 12. Yeah, well, we say 14 minutes and 55 seconds. Yeah. But no, it's pretty good. To speculate, I honestly think this guy, he is here, he's in it to win it. He's got the experience of a 4th and a 3rd. He's got the experience of 2 world titles. He did win the European Championship this year. You know, there's nothing that tells me that this guy isn't going to be able to get through a niggle. I don't usually bet on someone that isn't 100%, but if it is a niggle, I just think this guy will kill himself. He will bury himself to maintain what he's built. So he's built a nice, solid spot. And again, it's a lot of racing to be done.
Yes, a lot of racing to be done here as now Sebastian comes up on the airport turn. You can see that is the right-hand turning lane to go down into Keiholi Airport here in Kailua Kona. And now we can see that Kienle now is under that 6 mile area to go. So he's just about to come up onto the Energy Lab turn as well. So not too far to go for the German. He's going to be pushing those pedals as hard as he possibly can over the last 6 miles to extend that lead, not only on Meg Twalsek, but on the rest of the field. Marino van Hohenacker is doing a very good job of it as well. But let's give you a little bit of an idea on our age group athletes this morning as they went through, the first bike split on the bike. It was Rafael Conclaves, who we were talking about this morning, doing the fastest swim out there today. Then Trent Chapman of Australia, Daniel Bradshaw and Marlon Flander from Hungary, and James Burke were the first few athletes to go through there for our age group men. And then also on our women's side, just coming out of the water this morning, it was Samantha Morrison from the USA, Lauren Parker from Australia, Judy Coyle from the USA, Jocelyn Pollock from Australia, and Monica Juhert from Australia as well. So we had 4 Aussie women in the top 5 coming out of our age group swim today. So that is on the very early goings of our race here this morning. But then a little bit later on, we can just sort of cruise through our splits here right now. So Simone Daly from Great Britain was our lead age group woman through 60 miles. Samantha Morrison in second. Ana Cristina Bocanera Amato from Brazil was in 3rd place. Monica Juhart was still in 4th place from Australia, and Katrin Iselfeld from Germany was moving herself up into the top 5 of our age group race today. On our men's, however, it was James Burke and Adam Zuko from the USA, James Gifferlin from Great Britain, Pierre-Marc Doyon from Canada, and Martin Flander from Hungary were holding down the top 5 positions in our age group race. So that's how it was standing out there, just a few minutes ago on our age group race as well. So congratulations to all of our age groupers out there at the moment. We wish you a very good race as we concentrate now on our professional field. So there's Sebastian Kienle is now inside of that last 5 miles to go, and also Rachel Joyce still on screen. So Daniela Ryf went through the 90-mile mark, and that was 3 minutes and 5 seconds ahead of Rachel Joyce. Mary Beth Ellis is just falling back off the wheel of Rachel Joyce at the moment now at 3:17, so she's lost 12 seconds now. And at 5:24, Caroline Steffen is also losing time to our leaders. So Daniela Ryf has really put the pedal to the metal. She's really trying to extend a lead going into the run here today, Mike.
And you're absolutely right. And, I just have to say, because we had the opportunity earlier to see it happen live, but Rachel Joyce, that fellow that was sitting up as she was passed, I was just kind of combing through and remembering what he wore this morning. That was Pete Jacobs. That was the guy that won this race in 2012. So he's been overtaken by Rachel Joyce. That means he's out of the men's race. It doesn't mean he's out of the race. It just means he's out of the men's race. He had sort of had that despondent sitting up look. hard to see, not surprising. He's been very up and down this year, so a lot of us have seen that up and down nature. Very hard, as he indicated, to hold form and come off a championship, go into next year, stay injury-free, and now he's 2 years on from his win.
And by the look of it, last year and this year, Michael was, reflective of each other. And in 2013, he was quite injured and then went to the Mooloolaba 70.3 race in Australia, won that, then he came here this year by winning the same race, which was only like a month and a half ago, and in very, very good form. But maybe too much for the 2012 champion, but Pete Jacobs, he's just sort of hanging in there, and he was one of our early leaders on the bike, pushing very hard with Starkowitz in the first 5 miles as well.
And that could be it, Greg. I mean, we can't just always say, hey, an injury. There's a lot of times, and in this day and age, you get in there and you're racing against these guys. Do you want to, or do you have the wherewithal to carry on when things just are completely gone, and you're thinking, I really wanted to come back here and get on the podium and win it again, or whatever your goals may be. If you're trying to crack that top 10 for the first time, or just finish a competitive Ironman Hawaii for the first time, all that stuff factors in. And so what happens is you have to cope with the disappointment during, reset goals sometimes, and keep striving for something. So it's an exceedingly difficult task to do. So the athletes you've seen historically that have run their way from almost nowhere to the top 10 or top 5, those are the athletes that held on to the faith. It's the athletes that you don't cover them. Lindsay Corbin, like we haven't seen her today. Does that mean we won't? I think we will. Those questions will yet to be answered. By the way, just let me point out that the clouds are rolling in here. This run could set up a little bit differently.
Which is very typical of Kona in the afternoon.
Super typical, but sometimes they get a few miles in. Sometimes they get out there in the heat back. Every now and then you do have a hot couple miles with the sun still beating down. I suspect they'll still see it on the Queen K. Rachel Joyce out of the saddle. I look at this as a very good thing. Dave Scott, again, referencing the specialized bike coverage that we've got. Dave's got a few tips online. You can watch this stuff. Dave talks about the importance of getting up on a climb, activating the glutes, firing those muscles, you making sure that those key players that will obviously be used on the bike and the run, they're ready. They're ready, because you can't come off the bike and just be stuck in that position. So activating and firing the glutes, it's a good thing. So Rachel knows I can't just stay in these aero bars all day long.
Okay, so Sebastian Kinley passing Honokaha Harbour now. That's just 5 kilometres to go on our bike. The weather is heating up down here. It's still sunny out on course, but you can see that right here in downtown Kailua Kona that we've got cloud cover down to about 2,000 feet at the moment. It is going to come down a little bit more than that. Yesterday afternoon we had a little bit of rain, so the Foster Grant weather today has really given us pretty accurate readings. We're at about 86 degrees down here at the moment, and we can tell you that it was up to about 20 miles an hour of a headwind coming back in toward town. It was 25 miles an hour out of the Upolu Airport, which is up near Harvey Town, and very, very trying conditions for our athletes today. Today's weather has been brought to you by Foster Grant. Who's behind those Foster Grants?
Thanks, Greg. And it's just always on the brain. It's always on the brain, the weather here. There's the SRAM neutral support following closely behind our leader, and it's so great to see that, because you know what? You can have a flat tire in the last few miles. Most athletes will ride it right on in, but it does happen, and if that did happen, you know what? He can get a quick wheel change and maintain relative position. But again, we haven't seen a camera shot of Mike Twalsek, but I'm quite certain that the man is still present. He's just a fighter, and he's so strong on the bike, coming out of Tucson, Arizona, obviously 2007 Ironman Wisconsin champ. This guy knows how to get it done. He won Lake Placid and also podiumed in St. George. He's got a really good resume, so it's neat to see him back. Sebastian just getting a look at the leaderboard, the split board. So it's fun it's not fun, it's useful for the athletes that are up front to get an eye backwards, a rear view mirror, so to speak, because you just don't know. And the whiteboard comes up, and granted the split's from many miles ago, but it gives you an indicator, and you can do the math and see that you're gaining time on those guys that were nipping at your heels a while back. Smart man, grabbing his water. We talked about this. You come off the bike, anytime, but in a triathlon here at the Ironman World Championships in particular, sweat rate leaps up. So you lose that cooling effect that comes from riding 25, 26, 28 miles an hour. Suddenly you're stopped, and there's no cooling effect from any of that movement. You're standing in transition. In fact, you're in a change tent. It's oppressively hot and humid, and suddenly you realize, whoa, sweat rate's through the roof. So he's accounting for that, taking in a little fluid going in, out of the saddle in the air bars. I love to see that. So does Matt.
Yeah, I tell you what, the sweat rate in the commentary booth has gone up as well because it is getting very humid and very hot downtown here as we see Sebastian Kinley in his final few miles making his way very, very close to the transition area. T2 is coming up, and I tell you what, as he goes past the GoPro array, he's going to give us some very, very nice shots for the show coming up on November 15th. So if you want to find out more about the NBC show, go to ironman.com. But all you need to know is November 15th, you have a date in front of the television with NBC.
And obviously, we've been getting blown up all day long. My Twitter is like a zillion mentions if I peek at it. But you guys should always check out at Ironman Try on Twitter, also Facebook /Ironman, as well as Instagram. You know, you guys are there. We just like to keep you in the loop. Remember that it's not just what we have. We get a lot of info from you guys. We're seeing the same pictures right here as you are, so we can talk about it. If we see something or hear something that you don't see, we will absolutely share it. So again, stay connected social media-wise with us out there. Those are our personal handles, Twitter handles, Ironman Live Greg, Matt Lieto, of course, and myself, Michael Lovato. We are coming to you. We'll try and respond. If you shoot us a question, of course, hashtag #IamKona, put that on there, and we can all track these trends. So looking again to Sebastian Kienle. Super cool, super cool. 4th place in 12. 3rd place in 13. What will 14 bring for this champ?
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a good result if his leg holds up. And also just getting word out of the women's course that Jodie Swallow is just about to swallow up Meredith Kessler here and move into 5th place. Caroline Steffen still riding very nicely in 4th place at about 5.5 minutes down. Mary Beth Ellis and Rachel Joyce separated by about 12 seconds, just over 3 minutes down from Daniela Ryf. But anything can change in the last 10.5 miles or so for our women. Our men only have a couple of miles to go, and this is Sebastian Kinley coming up on Timakala Road here very, very shortly. And once he does, he'll head over that hill, and then he'll make that right-hand turn. After he makes that right-hand turn, he's only 1.5 miles away from town, and that means that he's going to take those, feet out of the shoes. He's going to put the feet up on top, air them out. He's going to throw back all the nutrition that he has on the bike, and then he'll start be thinking about, the Newton run leg, which is 26 miles ahead, or 42 kilometers. Now, Kinley has put himself in a very, very good position. So is this guy right here, this is Daniela Ryf. So Daniela Ryf is putting herself right up the front there, but having a very, very good ride at the moment. So lead men coming into our transition area momentarily.
So again, and thanks folks, you've been asking where is Daniela Ryf. We were trying to get as good a scope as we can of this women's race, so we bring that moto back to Mary Beth and Rachel. Obviously there's a bit of distance between the two, so now 3 minutes 10 seconds is what we're seeing. So with that gap, we had to inch on up the road, and we've done that. Look at her, it's a picture perfect sight right there. Daniela Ryf not locking out of the air positions, very nice, a moderate cadence. Looks to me it's about 75, 76. It's not super slow. It's not ultra high. It's just about right.
It has slowed down though, Michael, quite considerably. I did see Daniela in the first part of the bike ride with a lot faster cadence. We were also talking about very heavy winds up at the other side of the island, but coming back here, we do have some headwinds, but it's not that bad at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what? Here's the thing. That cadence historically trends towards slower as you go through the bike portion. So a lot of times you see that. You have the ability to have that high anaerobic output early on, and it tapers off, and you have to load up the muscles. You have to bring it down and slow the cadence. It's a natural thing. A lot of athletes train, in fact, the ability to handle and withstand, utilize that lower cadence later in the day, regardless of what your natural starting point is. So Ryf may well be that type, and I apologize, I'm learning my German, but Daniela Ryf, she looks to me very good. They told us this is how she'd look. We thought from the 70.3s and her victory in Switzerland, we thought this would be exactly how she'd look. It will be really fun to see this rookie tackle the run course, Newton run course. This gal, the last time we saw a rookie, come in here and lead and just get away. It was Chrissy. She did pretty well with it.
Yeah, she did very well. Ended up winning 4 Ironman World Championships and also retiring from the sport undefeated at the Ironman distance as well. So Daniela Ryf, I think she's going to face some pretty stiff competition. You know, she's going to be the hunted. She's out in the front there. I think Rachel Joyce is going to run right up to her. I think that Beth Ellis is going to be strong in the run. And Marinda Carfrey, I think she's going to run right through the field, right up to these girls as well. So it's going to be very exciting to see these girls at the end of the race today. But the rookie, Daniela Ryf from Switzerland, is dominating on the bike at the moment. And like you like to say, Mike, she is really trying to get all of that nutrition down as she gets to the top of Scenic Hill. She's right on Scenic Hill at the moment, the big hill on the way back into town. So she's got about a 3.5 minute lead over Rachel Joyce at the moment. Sebastian Kinley, however, he's about half a mile away from turning down Makala Road. And then once he does, he's only 1.5 miles away from the transition.
Oh man, so fun. I do get so excited when I see this, and they're going to come right past us. We'll see them come down that hill, spend a little time in transition, and then right back up that same exact hill. Another neat thing is you do actually run past opposing traffic. You run past those cyclists. So the cyclists going into transition, you're running on that same road to get out of transition. Those of you that haven't been here, we're getting some shout outs from Belgium, and yes, we're talking to you guys. You got 2 guys in the top 4, 2 Belgians, 2 Germans. It is a really, of course, international field here, and we do our best to keep you guys all the info coming at you. So Sebastian Kienle right now, here's your turn you talked about. He's going to come down. He's got the section through the shopping centers, and it's a nice steep hill right here.
Hugging
nice
those corners there, Michael. Here comes Kinley around the right turn, doing a proper racing line, as you would imagine, drawing the tangents. The shortest way around that corner is on that very inside. And now Kinley, the strong German, is now trying to rest those legs, just spinning them out a little bit, shaking them out, making sure that their nutrition is in. He is just about set to get out onto the marathon run here. Still hasn't taken those feet out of the pedals, which is probably going to happen at the end part of Kuakini Highway before they turn right onto Palani Drive for the very last time today on their bikes. It'll be the second time they've gone down Palani Road, and I tell you what, they're going to be very happy about that.
Yeah, you're right. Palani's used up in this race, so after he bikes down, he runs up it again, and later he's going to have to run up it again and then run down it. So we use Palani
about 6 times or so
all day long, so Palani's a little tired into the day. But right now we got Kienle. This is going to be the cool thing, is to make that left turn. He's actually got about a mile when you hit that left turn. It's sort of surprising, but it's a mile all the way in from the swimming pool all the way in. So we go to, perhaps we have a nice close-up look, but here he is taking this last turn. This old airport, courses take place out there. Old airport is right there on his right now. He's coming in. He's got a mile to go. It's going to be a really quick mile, though. This guy is starting to realize, okay, run's coming up. In his mind, what do I need to do? Got to get into transition, hand off the bike, get through the change tent as quickly and as efficiently as I can, but without panicking. You don't want to do that. Historically, we've looked back, we've seen people with a 4-minute penalty win this race sitting in transition, so you have to know a little calm, collected transition can be to your benefit. So this may be what he takes. I suspect this guy is excited, fired up. He wants to hear these people yelling, "Go Sebi, go."
Yeah, Natasha Bardman's won it like that. Paul and Yibby Fraser, also Luke Van Leerd. And as you look, we got
Tim de Boom.
Tim de Boom. We got 2 wonderful shots on our same gentleman here. He is the leader in the 2014 Ironman World Championship presented by GoPro. As he goes through our second to last stop sign there, he's approaching the dealership, the car dealership coming up. We know that he's only 400 yards away from our turn. He's going to make that right-hand turn onto Palani Road, and then he's only 250 yards away from the GoPro array. After that, he hops off his bike and runs into the tent. He will change from his bike clothes to his running clothes, and then heading out on the Newton Run course, which is 26 miles and 42.2 kilometers in length today. Here comes Kinley. Off go the shoes. Feet on top of the pedals there as he rolls around onto Palani here. Take us through it, Mike.
This is absolutely it, folks. He's coming around this final right turn. The road drops down, and he's got a bit of respite before he begins this journey. And like you said, Greg, this is it. All the people, I can hear them. I can feel them above the noise of the helicopter. He's right here. Mr. Sebastian Kinley from Germany coming in, ready to transition to that Newton Run course. Mike Riley's got a hold of him. He's coming around that final bend. Folks, let's see what he does as he passes through that GoPro station, the array, which will capture incredible footage. Greg, I love it.
Me too, mate. We're into it. it. Two Tri-Geeks calling the race today. The 2014 Ironman World Championship presented by GoPro has its first athlete off the bike today. Sebastian Kinley from Germany at just about under 5 hours and 20 minutes onto the course today.
Let's get to Matt Lieto. Matt, take it away from here, fella.
Yeah, guys, thanks so much. Yeah, as you saw, Sebastian Kinley off the bike. He's running around transition right now. Very smooth form. Doesn't look like a cyclist that's put too much out there right now, but he's still looking aggressive and looking smooth. But as we look at the transition right now, these athletes are going to come in right behind us, and they're going to come around all the way around transition, the same space that they had to run around in the opposite direction, out of the swim and onto the bike. We have Sebastian Kinley now running all the way the length of the pier, all the way back through these change tents to my left. But Sebastian Kinley now with a substantial gap, looking nice and smooth coming in. He's going to disappear into the back of these tents, and when he comes out, he's going to have his game face on, ready to rock the marathon. But yeah, right here we'll see all the bags from the swim area, and they're going to grab their bags for their bike to run on the other side of this tent and then run through. They're going to run right behind us. And this is a space where we can kind of tell if the athlete's given a little bit too much or if they've paced themselves correctly. But about 30 seconds from now, we're going to see Sebastian Kinley running straight through this tent. I know we've got some other athletes coming soon. We'll get them coming off the bike if they come off before. But right now, we've got about 30 seconds to Sebastian Kinley. Great bike ride from him today. Didn't hold back. We don't expect Sebastian to hold back at all. So Sebastian had a great ride. Took his time getting up to the rest of the field that had dropped him behind on the swim, but he has now obviously gotten through everybody, used his strength on the bike. But one thing we forget, Sebastian Kinley is a phenomenal runner. If he was running a straight marathon, he could run it almost as good as anybody here. And here we go, off a good bike ride, Sebastian Kinley starting the run, looking very smooth in his Red Bull hat. Here we go, Sebastian Kinley, nice and smooth, heading out to the run start.
A two-time Ironman 70.3 champion here, Sebastian Kinley, the Ironman European champion, has now headed out onto the run course. We all know that he can run a good split. Is the injury going to hold up? That is going to be the 26-mile question for Sebastian Kinley, making his way onto Palani Road right now. Soon will come the right-hand turn as we see our next athlete coming in, and that is Mike Twalsek, who has lost a lot of time over the last couple of miles of the bike today.
I mean, that's Mike coming in. They were together. Obviously, you know, I had 2 minutes and 18 seconds for his transition, plus 42 seconds. That's just at 3 minutes. 3 minutes, folks. Rough split, but I'm talking at least around about 3 minutes. Right here, it looks a little funny from the up. You know, the helicopter, you can't tell, looks a little flat rather, but that is a nice little hill. Take a right turn, head out to this first mile. Mike Twalsek, oh my goodness, this guy looks incredible. Often we see these guys come off after a fast bike split. They're so stiff, they can't even extend the hips, they can't move. It's just a tight shuffle. Not the case for these two Germans, really tearing into this transition too. It's amazing.
Yep, so Kinley spent 2 minutes and 20 seconds in transition at the moment. So Kinley was in at a 5:17.25 and out in a 5:19.42. So just over 2 minutes and 20 seconds in transition there today for Kinley. The strong German has now made his way out onto the run course, followed by another German, Mike Twalsek, training out of Tucson, Arizona. And I tell you what, he's been missing out of this race for a few years, but today he's put in a solid effort. But the last part of the bike really chewed into the time that he had with Kinley.
Absolutely. This is a former teammate of Marino van Hoenacker, our former third-place finisher, 11-time Ironman champion. He won Ironman Canada a couple months ago. Marino van Hoenacker, someone that I really believe is primed and ready to get back on the podium today. The Belgian, as well as Frederik van Leerde, these two guys are hardened, tough men. They absolutely come here guns ablazing. They want this race, and they're so good on all three disciplines. So this is a really hot top four right now coming in, and the cool thing will be to just sit and count the minutes. So right now on my watch, there's Marino right there. That's it. That's Marino coming in on his Scott. They've got that really nice pop on the on the fluorescent colors there marking the bike. That's really good to see that he's this close. 2 minutes 30 seconds since our leader left the tent.
Exactly. Here comes Marino here, and you can see the gingerly running through the transition area there now. Gotten rid of the bike helmet and the bike. Running over to those tents over there to grit his running shoes before he heads out on the marathon as well. Marino's best spot here has been 3rd place a few years ago, also a 4th place. Let's see if he can pull one out of the bag today. He was missing last year, and he said this morning when we saw him in the transition area, Mike, I'm very hungry.
I'm very hungry, and you know what? I think that happens when you do really well and then you're forced to sit out with an injury. The man didn't have patience before. He didn't have a game plan of sit and wait. He had a game plan of, I'm going to win it. I'm going to go as hard as I can until my body shuts down. Hopefully I'm across the finish line. So he applied that same aggressive tactic to this race, but with a little bit of patience that he earned and learned from 18 months of being sidelined. So we missed Marino last year at this event, but he's back and he's proving, man, he's ready to rumble. I'm feeling what I would describe as a cool breeze coming into the tent, because I don't ever say that. Usually it's sweltering in this booth. Thank you, bit of a complaint. But right now it's quite nice. It's coming in feeling good. Let's look and see exactly what Lieto has on the line there at the T2 start. Go. Matt, are you there?
All right, so we'll wait for Matt there. As soon as he hear him talking, we'll quieten down. But right now you can see that Sebastian Kinley was only in transition there for about 2 minutes and 20 seconds.
Mike.
And then also, Sebastian Kinley was in first. Mike Twalsek in second. Marina van Hohenacker. So Mike Twalsek was 3 minutes and 15 seconds off the bike. And as soon as we get the split, we'll let you know exactly how much time he either gained or lost. And he did lose some time. He lost around about 45 seconds in that transition area. So there you go. It was a 3 minute and 15 second transition for Mike Twalsek.
Sure.
A lot different than 2 minutes and 20.
I think 2:20 is very quick, and here's Marino showing it even quicker. I mean, that's quick for Ironman. 2:20, that's a long, you got to run the entire pier. They make sure that every athlete does the same flow, be it the first place or last place finisher. Everybody runs the same distance. So, I mean, Marino made up almost every bit of time on Mikey. Mikey's heading up that hill right now. It's a beautiful shot right there. Nice long stretch ahead. Here we have the overview of the entire transition, still very empty. These guys, they've got to feel good with their bikes in transition, but nobody else's.
Exactly. Okay, so we've only got 3 athletes inside of our transition area at the moment as we anticipate the arrival of the rest of our top 10 here momentarily, and that's going to be Freddie Van Leer, the defending champion, then followed by Ben Hoffman, Niels Fromhold, and Romain Guillaume. They were also riding together, those 4. So Van Leer, Hoffman, Fromhold, and Guillaume from France. They should be coming in here any moment now.
For sure, coming down, and there's the large shot. We're seeing the overhead coming in, and this is really good. That's Freddie Van Leer up front, and it's really good stuff. I mean, Matt, are you there? We'd love to hear how it looks on the ground at Transition 2.
Yeah, guys, thanks so much. Yeah, there's a lot happening around here. Everybody wants to know where the gaps are at. And right now we do have 2 more athletes. And the athlete I was just speaking of is coming over my left shoulder, Frederick Van Leer. The athlete who played it perfectly last year seems to be playing it pretty darn well today. Behind him, American Ben Hoffman with the absolutely awesome bike split from him. Great performance from Ben. That's I got a split from Andrew Messick of 8 minutes and 15 seconds from our first place athlete to Frederick Van Leer with Ben Hoffman right behind him. And I got some insider information. I know that Ben Hoffman, he had his breakthrough run earlier this year at Coeur d'Alene, but we share a coach, and I know that Ben has been running better than he ever has before. So he had a very, very good bike ride, very good swim today to be in that front group. And right now, Ben Hoffman, by far the best position he has ever been at this World Championships race. And he looks really comfortable carrying his helmet around the transition. Him and Frederick Van Leer are at the very end of the pier right now. And they're going to come through this changing tent. They're going to grab their bag before they get in there, run through, and it's going to be mass hysteria as those guys are asking volunteers and people that are giving aid to help them out, put their shoes on, put their socks on, pour cold water on them, pour a cold towel, put a towel over their head. But pretty shortly we're going to have those guys coming through. But the energy down here in transition, we've got behind me, there's a huge amount of media and people that are really excited to see what's going to go on here on the marathon, because you know what, it's the marathon that counts. You got to put really hard work in the swim and the bike, and you might overextend yourself and the marathon will bite you right in the butt. So you know, the marathon is where you make the dough. They say run for dough, and we've got another athlete coming from behind. I want to say this is Nils Frumhold. We don't see him yet, but we do have another athlete coming in as these two athletes are about set to come through. So yeah, we do have Nils Frumhold just in transition behind me. Athlete coming up behind him. I don't have a name on. Oh, that looks like Romain Guillaume has come in now in 6th or 7th place behind Nils Frumhold. So some good runners here. We know there's a couple more good runners coming up. I heard Andreas Rehlert's close by. But right now, defending champion, wearing number 1 for a reason. Frederick Van Leerd looks super, super comfortable. He got everything he needed. He got his nutrition. Now he's out ready to do damage where he did damage before. And this year, Ben Hoffman rocking the safari hat. He knows the focus for him is going to be staying cold so he can run as hard as he can. Now he knows he's capable of a sub 250 marathon. Even more important than before to stay cold. Stay not cold. You're not going to be cold out here ever on this course, but as cool as possible. Ben Hoffman with that hat is going to try to do his best job. But thanks so much, guys. We're down here. We've got a few more athletes coming out, but we're going to see what you guys see.
That's good stuff. You know what, Matt? You were saying sub 250. Ben Hoffman ran 2:43 in Coeur d'Alene, if I remember correctly, 2:43. He told me the other day if he could be within 9 minutes of that split, 2:51, he thinks that's reasonable. A 2:51 right now keeps him not only in top 5, it might move him up to 3rd. Incredible. Ben Hoffman really putting together what he thought he could do, actually what he knew he could do. He said, look, I just want to go 8:30. He's under pace for that right now, over pace.
Yeah, exactly. And Frederick Van Leerd won this race last year with a 2:51 marathon split. Now today, Freddie Van Leerd is sitting down 8 minutes and 10 seconds, a little bit further than what he was last year. But it was also over, you know, Kinley, Mike Twalsek and Marina Van Hohenacker this year. Not the same guys as what was in the race last year, like a Luke McKenzie and a Sebastian. I mean, Luke McKenzie actually got the lead of this race out on the Queen K Highway, but Luke is right out of it this year. But now Van Leerd is finding himself back in within, you know, striking position. Kinley is the guy that, you know, has everything in his hands right now. He's a fantastic runner. We know he can run fast. Was Ironman European champion this year. He's a 2-time 70.3 world champion. He certainly has the credentials to go on with it today. Does he have it in the tank? And will the injury hold up for him as he gets through that 26 miles today? So Ben Hoffman in a great spot, 8:18 down. Freddie Van Leerd 8:10. 4:37 is Van Hohenacker. Second place is 4:06, which is Twalsek. And then our leader today is Sebastian Kinley. So there we go as we see it out on the course at the moment.
Absolutely, and this is good stuff. I mean, we're watching these guys tackle the run course, and man, they're just coming in. A lot of talent. So one of the things that we want to remember is last year we saw Tyler Butterfield. There's Andreas Rehlert right there. We saw, and there's Jan Frodeno right there behind him. So this
Look
is
at
good,
that run.
good heat coming in. There's Tim O'Donnell right behind. We've got Tim Van Berkel just behind him. There's a lot of contenders. Another German athlete, I would guess right here. Who have we got there?
By the look of it, I think it's...
Erdinger athlete. So we like to see these guys. We know they're from Germany. Typically, there's a team over there. This is good, this Cyril Vinot, sorry, from France. So I didn't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, Christian Kramer, I think it was in there as well. From Germany, I think that was our last runner to go by there. So Craig Alexander shouldn't be too far away either. He was riding in that group a little bit beforehand. But look at this Sebastian Kinley as he's making his way toward that 3-mile mark out on the course at the moment. This is right at the swim turnaround right there. So we can see that Kinley is now running uphill as he goes across that little bridge. He'll be going past the Sea Village condominiums in just a few moments' time. And then he'll make his way downhill onto the flatter section. Now, once he goes up past White Sands, Magic Sands, he's only got another couple of miles to run. He'll turn around at the St. Peter's Church, come all the way back into town for the 10-mile mark as the sun comes back out in Kona.
I like to look at the form right here, and the guy looks relaxed. His shoulders are dropped down. You know, he's not showing any tension left over from the bike, the effort he put out there. He looks very good. He looks smooth. He's not got a lot of vertical movement in his run form. He's just very, very smooth. He's moving forward, nice light arm carriage, nice arm swing. And, you know, a lot of times we overlook the importance of that arm swing. It really does help carry the feet forward. Arm swing really ties in where the arms go, the feet follow. This guy's got that down pat. I mean, I think this guy, I don't see a problem right now at all. Obviously, it's early. I acknowledge that, but I like that he already looks this smooth. You know, sometimes it takes a while to find that stride. So, man, this is a really good look for our European Ironman champion, Sebi Kinley.
Yep, so the fastest guy in transition right now has been Marino van Hohenacker, and he's picked up a decent 20 seconds on Sebastian Kinley. But Sebastian Kinley was our second fastest in transition today. So the Kinley there making his way up the hill, looking very, very smooth. As you can see there, Michael, his form looks very good so far, as you were just saying.
Absolutely, and he's unzipped. He's trying to get a little ventilation. It's one of those things. Here we've got Jan Frodeno making the mistake of forgetting to take off his aero top, the sleeve top. He said, I do not want this. Tim O'Donnell taking his aero top. They wear these sleeve tops. Only Kinley wanted to keep his on. This guy said, you know what? I want a nice light singlet. I got to put that on. So you're going with the sleeveless. I agree with that. These aero tops and that, it's just, to me, you know what? It's just extra fabric, and I don't think that helps you at all on the marathon. Science is important, but proven methods, being out there, you have more fabric on when you're running. It's just hotter.
No, I didn't like to have fabric covering my shoulders at all. I used to love the breeze on the skin and try and dry out some of the perspiration as well. But, some people say that, it keeps you cool as well. And Sebastian's still got the same clothes on as what he did the bike in. So, hey, that's why it amounts to a very, very fast transition, there right now. And I'll tell you, I'll give you the results of the transitions here in just a moment. But right now, first off the bike, this year's 2014 Ironman World Championship presented by GoPro. Sebastian Kinley, the strong German, is off the bike in first. In second, Mike Twalsek from Germany, Marino van Hohenacker and Freddie van Leerde, the two Belgians, off in third and fourth. USA's Ben Hoffman, Nils Fromhold, Romain Guillaume and Cyril Verneau, the French boys, and Andy Potts and Ray Lurt head out the top 10 there. And it's separated by 12 minutes and 43 seconds today, so an incredible bike ride by our German today.
Wow, that's great. 4 Germans, 2 Belgians, 2 French, 2 Americans. I like the symmetry of that. It looks really nice. So really well represented there. And these guys, oh my gosh, if we see Andreas Raylert right here pack up, that's Barney. That's Paul Matthews right there with the Sansigo. There we go. We've got Paul Matthews on the course. But if we can see Andy Potts and Andy Raylert come together and do a little damage together on the run, those two are both very good runners. Obviously, Raylert a little bit more proven in the lava fields. But Andy Potts, missing last year, he had 3 top 10s prior to that. So the guy can run well in Kona. This is really great. Again, remember, bear with us, folks. A lot of times we get a snippet, if you will, of these guys. And we got to call out who we think it is. So you guys may know ahead of us, but we'll do our best to correct ourselves. Again, Paul Matthews, a lot of talk ahead of time about how this guy's run so well. He's gone so fast. Let's see how that holds together in the heat. I think he's really primed to have a good race still.
Yeah, I think he's ready to have a good run as well. So Paul Matthews, he lost 20 seconds in transition as well as Andy Potts did. Jan Frodeno lost 20 seconds in there. Tim O'Donnell lost a few seconds. Daniel Hawksworth lost a few seconds. Tim Van Perkel was pretty quick in transition, only losing 7 seconds. But Andy Raylert, he lost a couple. Actually, he lost 2 seconds only. So Raylert, I think he's going to be in for a good run today as well. So Kinley heading out to that 3.5 mile mark on a Leahy Drive right now as we see some more of our athletes coming in off the bikes today. So Craig Alexander is coming into transition right now. Very popular Alexander, the 3-time champion, as he makes his way through T2.
And the guy that's gone faster than anybody else on this course, which is a pretty good feather to have in your cap.
Oh, yeah.
Craig Alexander, there he is. He's running really quick already. He's got the shave down on the head. Nice cool arrow lid there, i.e. your bald dome. So that's really good. Craig Alexander, I mean, he was complaining of some back issues, but he looks incredible right now. This guy that just came into transition, Mr. Bart Erno, he came in and ran 2:44 last year. If he can do a 2:44 this year, we're seeing him again in that top 5.
All right, so as Luke McKenzie goes out right now in 19th position, Sebastian Kinley leads, but let's get a little bit more of a closer update from Matt Lieto, who's standing by in transition.
Yeah, thanks so much. So, guys, yeah, there are a lot of action, obviously, coming through here. You guys are seeing about the same stuff I'm seeing, but I'm able to get in the men's change 10 and watch these guys run around. And, people that look comfortable. Craig Alexander, as you mentioned, just came through, absolute legend in our sport. He looks comfortable. Luke McKenzie looked pretty good. I actually thought he looked good, but he wasn't super positive at the moment. But he's running through. Ben Hoffman looked really, really good. Andy Potts looked calm and comfortable in the change tent. Marco Albert looked a little bit tight. He rode pretty hard today. He looked a little bit tight. Tim O'Donnell looked really, really smooth. Andreas Raylert had from my point of view, it looked like he had a pretty good transition, but he looked smooth, like it was just business as usual. So Andreas Raylert, I wouldn't be surprised if he had a great run split in him today. Coming off the bike right now is Miki Weiss. He probably had planned to be a little bit further up in the field off the bike, but he's been working on his run. So Miki Weiss ready for a good run as well. But keep coming through. Lots of athletes still to come. We've got our women probably not more than 15 or 20 minutes behind. But right now, Craig Alexander going through, looking smooth. And as I say that, he goes through, honestly, the fastest I've seen anybody at this point. So if you wonder, hey, is Craig Alexander just going to get around the course now that he's not in a very good position? I'll tell you, he is not going to do that. He is going to run to the best of his abilities, and his abilities are pretty top-notch. So Craig Alexander, expect a fast run split from him. He's chasing some fast guys, but there's enough fast guys close to him that can motivate him on to a very, very fast run split. So that's what's happened down here in transition. Back to you guys for the run course.
Oh, thanks, Matt. And we're seeing this picture of Sebastian, and all of a sudden, I think it's just been this last little bit, I've looked at him again, I see a change in the form. I see him pulling back. He's leaning back. His shoulders are coming backwards. He's just basically laboring. He's fighting in the upper body. You don't want to see that. I see him literally changing. He seemed very smooth, but that didn't last long. Now what I see is a guy that's fighting a bit. And to be fighting this early is not good. I'm not saying it's something he can't overcome, but he's suddenly feeling the wear and tear of something right now. You can see him a little more side to side, a little bit more upper body, sort of throwing his arms forward, not swinging them, but throwing them, trying to gain that momentum. Am I right, Greg?
Yeah, well, it's typical of Sebastian's running style. This is what he does. He has a very high turnover, and you can see his arms coming across his body very, very quickly there. I'd like to see him just slow down a little bit and save a little bit of this for a little bit later on, because I think right now Sebastian's running very, very quickly, and we all know why. You know, he's been battling an injury, and he's probably just thinking he wants to get up the road and, you know, try and bank a little bit of time. I don't quite know if that's the best tactic or not, but I'd love to see him just, you know, just slow down a little bit, drop that chin, and release those shoulders, because right now he looks just a little bit too tense. And but otherwise, you know, his turnover's really nice.
Pretty nice, and you're right. He's a bit of a fighter. He looked that way when he ran 1:16 at Las Vegas to win the world title. We just ran past the Kona Bali Kai, a bit of a condo landmark. That's about 3 miles in. We're gonna keep watching this. We're gonna look over, and hopefully we're gonna check out some more of our race going on. But this is really good stuff. We will continue to revisit on these men. There we go, Greggy.
Yes, so Sebastian Kinley leads our men's, but the 2014 Ironman World Championship continues, presented by GoPro here. We got Daniela Ryf from Switzerland. She's leading our race. She has been for quite some time now. Meredith Kessler, however, did pick up the bike preem today, and by Big Ring Bike Insurance, so congratulations to Meredith. But Daniela Ryf having a good old day.
And you know what? Here it is. You know, you can see this girl is so talented. She's so good, and she's so prime. But what I want to comment on right now is the position she's in entering the marathon. So a couple of things. You need a psychological advantage. She's wearing this vented helmet, as we talked about. Why I like that? She's not going to go that much faster, a little bit faster with the aerodynamics of a full helmet. But psychologically, she thinks she's doing something that helps her physiology. That's huge. She may actually be helping her physiology as well by not sweating, by feeling cooler. That's immensely, immensely important. Jordan Rapp did a study. He wrote it down. You guys saw this. He talked about that very thing, about the psychology of feeling cooler. Feeling cooler is being cooler. Being cooler is racing better. So I like that. Second thing, and I'll stop droning for a minute, but Daniela Ryf, she's in the front. She's feeling like, I think she delivered attention to every important aspect. She's strong as can be on the bike. She's ready to run.
Right now, you know, she's just thinking of her last, training session. You can just see, I'm just going to put the head down, I'm just going to crank along. It's very typical of somebody who rides an indoor trainer a lot to put their head down and just sort of look at the road down there like that, because that's what they do in their long and very extended, wind trainer sessions, whether it be with wattage or whether it be based on heart rate. But right now, all she's thinking about is cadence, heart rate, and getting herself to that, end of the the bike ride today. So we can see that Daniela is just now going through the Honokahau Harbour, which is about 5 kilometres to go onto our bike course at the moment. Well, actually, that's the Energy Lab, so she's 5 miles away, so 5 miles away from Daniela Ryf, so we've got about just under 15 minutes away from seeing our first woman come in off the bike.
And you know what? Yeah, she's got a couple more hills. She's obviously on the portion of the bike course that covers the same terrain as the run. There's a couple of hills here. You know, she's not just smooth sailing right on into transition. There's work to be done, and you let up in this final 5 to 10 miles, you let up on the gas a little bit, you suddenly lose 30, 45 seconds. You're going to want those later. Everybody does. So it's important that she continue that pressure. This is a great split screen. Our 2 leaders from Germany, Sebastian Kienle, looks great. I mean, he looks like he's fighting. He looks like he's working, and it's a lot of running to be done, but hey.
From there, it looks all right. From the hips
okay.
down, it looks absolutely brilliant. Sebastian, look at that. The arms coming across the body just nicely. Actually, he looks a little bit better than what he looked about a mile